auditor training. And I'm very happy to welcome all of you on board for this training. So a small introduction about myself. My name is Annamalai. I'm basically a BTech engineer from IIT Varanasi. I worked in manufacturing for 22 years, and then I was in an IT service company for 8 years. And then for the last 7 years, I am just working as a consultant cum trainer. And my core skill is Lean Six Sigma, training, content development, and project guidance. And I also used to take PMP training, but nowadays I am just stopped. I'm focusing more only on Lean Six Sigma. And some of the major customers include L&T Valves, Tata Communications, then Pfizer Healthcare, Standard Chartered Bank. Then we have also trained some participants in a food processing company in Maldives. Then in Oman, Abraj, there's a drilling service company. Then in Kenya, we have trained some Technobrand, so they are into the call center business. So we are our major customers are from India, Africa, and Middle East, Asia. So that is a brief about our company and about myself. So let us get started with this training. Okay. So I think all of you would have had a very broad idea about what is audit, right? Maybe every year you find that during the year closing, maybe during the December 31st or March 31st, depending upon the country where you live in. So the books of accounts are closed. And then for that year, so whatever the work is, whatever the performance of the company, so that is being presented. And then after all the details about the revenue, about the expenses and everything. So everything is about the work in progress stock, finished good stock. So everything is completed. So again, a thorough audit will be done by internal auditors and then by external agencies to ensure that everything is right. And then the financial statement, whether the company has made any loss or profit, and what are the other aspects of the about the assets and about liquidity and all those things. The statement is given by the auditor, right? So whenever we do an audit, so that means we have got some standard practices, right? So we have got some standard practices or standard requirements. Say for example, in financial, if you do a financial audit, so maybe all the GST requirements should have been complied, all the income tax compliances should have been done. So all those, so some requirements are there, standard practices, or some standard requirements are there, and then the auditors will check whether the company or the departments have complied to the standard practices and requirement, and they will highlight if there are any non-conformances so that some corrective action can be taken, right? So audit is an activity where you compare the actual happening in the processes, whether everything is going as per the standard practices or documentation. And if there is a discrepancy, that will be highlighted to the management or the appropriate authorities so that corrective action can be taken. So this is a very broad definition about the audit. So again, now since we are going to learn about this ISO 9000, then we will look into what is ISO. So ISO, actually, the idea of having this organization, the ISO is International Organization for Standardization. So this actually organization, which is focusing more on the standardization of quality of the products or services across the globe. So the real requirement for having a common organization across the globe, so that the quality of the products and services can be standardized, so that the customers from any part of the world, they can just source the products or the services from any other part of the globe, right? So that can be possible only if there is a standard practices are there. So the real requirement of this standard organization was felt during the Second World War. So all of you are aware that the Second World War was fought between the 1939 to 1945. So during this time period, all the countries, they had to necessarily import most of the items required for the war, like the guns, the tanks, and the bullets, etc. So all the other items they had to import from various parts of the uh, globe. And at that point of time, they were finding a lot of quality issues. So imagine that new guns and new bullets have arrived in a packet, and then the soldiers are taking it to the war field, and then when they fire the gun, the bullet is not coming out, right? Or the gun is not shooting. So you can imagine what will happen, right? That particular soldier is going to die. And then at that point of time, they had all these a lot of practical problems because they were not getting the required quality. So it was felt that if there is a common agency across the globe who will certify that yes, this particular organization or can supply the materials as per the requirements of the customer, then that will be good. So the necessity was felt, but not much actions happened from 1945 to 1987. But a lot of background activities were going on. So all the countries they had some sort of organizations which were standardizing all the products and services within the country. Like for example, in India we have the BIS. I think you would have heard about this name. So we call this a Bureau of Indian Standards. Bureau of Indian Standards, right? And like that, we have the British standards and the US standards. So like that, each and every country had a some organization which are concentrating on the standardization of the products and services within the country. So from 1945 to 1987, so the lot of dialogue happened between these individual countries standard organization, and then all of them just wanted to come through and come under one umbrella. And during 1987, this ISO was established in the year 1947, just after the Second World War, right? So the expansion of ISO is International Organization for Standardization. So you can see that it is actually it should have been IOS, right? If you really take the first letters, it should be IOS. But actually, we call it ISO, because I think all of you are aware that ISO means same, right? Equal. We have learned about the isosceles triangle, isobars, isotherms. So ISO means equal. So since this particular organization was mainly formed for the standardization or making everything equal or standard, then the company, this organization was named as a ISO, right? Even though the full expansion is International Organization for Standardization, and it was established in 1947, and it was headquartered in Geneva, Switzerland, and it is actually the worldwide federation of national standard bodies. So all the different countries, their own bodies were merged into, or they just became part of this particular organization and then became ISO. And again, if you say that from 1947 to 1987, not much of activities were going on. But again, this particular organization, so they started developing the standards for various uh, products and services and systems. So mainly there are two different standards what we can solve. One is the process standards, and another is the product standards. So whenever a company is certified as a ISO 9000 company, so that means the company is certified for against the standards for the processes, right? So the certification is not awarded for any of the products. In India, at least, you would have heard about IS, right? Suppose IS 349 is there. For example, you are getting a pressure cooker from a company. A company is manufacturing pressure cookers, and then there is a standard specification for the pressure cooker. And if the Bureau of Indian Standards, they will just check whether the product is as per this specification. Then they will certify the product, and then that will come as a IS. But when we talk about ISO, then the ISO certification is not given for the products, but it is given for the processes. So that means right from the receipt of raw material till the final quality is done and then delivered to the customer, and still the time it reaches the customer, what are the different processes being followed, and whether all these processes are some meeting some standards, right? So in the ISO 9000, again we have some standards. Again, it is actually a 20 pages document, and a lot of requirements are given against various topics. So we are going to learn about those topics. So a lot of maybe some 150 different requirements are given in this document. And then if that company, starting from the raw material till the final inspection, if all the standard processes are being followed, then that can give assurance to the customer that the company can give a consistent quality material, right? So that is how we call that as a ISO 9000, right? So this ISO 9000 is actually a standards for quality management system. So how we are going to establish, document, implement, maintain, and monitor the quality management system. So how we are, if you are going, how right from evaluating the suppliers. So what is the process we are having for evaluating the suppliers? Then how are we defining the specification for the raw materials and other inputs? Then how we are going to test and inspect and then pass the raw material. Then the different processes, how we are going to control the process conditions, and how we are going to control the output from each process, so that final output, whatever is going to come, it is going to meet all the specifications are given by the customer and delivered to the customer. So the end-to-end process, what are the process being followed? Then everything has to meet the standard setup document requirements given by the ISO 9000 standards. So we call that as a quality management system, where we are controlling the quality. So similarly, we also have ISO 14000. So we call that as a environment management system. So that means in a company, so right from the whatever the operations they are doing, so they may be doing production, they may be doing R&D, they may be doing maintenance. So in whatever the processes they are doing, so how they are having the control in the environment, because you know that whenever any like service or a manufacturing company is working, then there's a lot of opportunities that some unwanted the sewage water is not is polluting the land, or some air pollution is there, or water pollution is there, or some hazardous material is being stored, especially in services. Whenever you are using some laptops or computers, so lot of hazardous materials are there. So how the company is controlling all those the environmental aspects, right? So that whatever the process we are doing, so it is not emitting any, it is not creating any air pollution or water pollution or the land pollution. So what are the system you are having in place in order to ensure that the environmental requirements are met? So that is being followed as ISO 14000. So same way, the ISO 27000, that is dealing with information security management system. So this is mainly applicable for the service or software related companies. So many of them, maybe some of the customers may be like banks and a lot of government agencies. So a lot of secret information documents may be handed over to the organization. So what is the system they are having in order to ensure that the confidentiality of the documents are maintained? So what is the system they are following for the end-to-end process? So that requirements are specified in the ISO 27000 standards. So in most of the companies, initially, a company who wants to certify through all these three standards, then they'll have to undergo the audit by an auditing agency 3 times, right? So they will have to undergo an audit for ISO 9000 separately, then 27000 separately, then 14000 separately. So they found that a lot of confusions were there. Again, it was a lot of time and efforts were wasted. A lot of money was wasted by the company. Then maybe 10 years back, then all those three were integrated into one system. We call it the integrated management system, right? So if the company is wanting to go only for ISO 9000, they can go for it. If they want to go only for ISO 9000 and ISO 14000, then they can combine all the documentation as meeting the requirements of both the quality management system and environmental management system, and the certifying agency can certify, they can audit against these two standards together, and then they can just say whether the company is certified for 9000, 14000. And again, some other companies, like maybe it is IT service company, they want to go for all the three standard, then they can just make the documentation, and then they can implement all the three systems together in an integrated fashion, and then they can be audited for all the three systems, right? So this has now really simplified the way the standards are being implemented and followed in any organization. And depending upon the requirement of the company, then they can either opt for one or more of these systems together. Okay. Now we will just focus only on ISO 9001. So even though the ISO was formed in the year 1945, 47, so for 40 years, not much of a lot of background discussions were going on about the different standards. And again, the quality management systems also, again, the dialogue started. And then the first standards for ISO 9000 was released in the year 1987. So after 40 years after the formation of ISO organization, the ISO 1987, there was a version 1, first version that was released in 1987. So we call that a quality assurance system. So before going into the thing, I will just explain you what is a quality control system, quality control, quality assurance, and quality management. Okay, I will just talk. I will come to the documentation later, right? I'm just coming through that. Be patient, and then after the maybe I've just divided this training program into two parts. The first one is we are going to talk about what is ISO, what is ISO 9000, and then what are the requirements in terms of documentation for the ISO 9000. And I'll also touch upon the requirements of the ISO 9000 standards, right? What are the requirements? So that will be the first part. Then we will break somewhere around 9:15 to 9:30 for a dinner break for around 20-25 minutes. And then after the break, we will talk about auditing, right? So what is an audit? What are the different terms related to audit? And then how you can do the audit, how you can make the reports, and then how you can conclude. So there are two parts. The first part is regarding this ISO 9000 and the fundamental concepts of ISO 9000 standards. Second part will be purely on auditing, right? So when we are covering about these ISO 9000 documents, then again requirements, again I'll be covering the documentation extensively in the few slides. So please wait it. And then if you have any doubts, then you can just ask after the particular topic is covered. Okay. So I will now talk about the different, these three: quality control, what is quality control, quality assurance, and quality management. So previously, maybe 78 years back and all, so whatever we had, any manufacturing, at that point of time, we didn't have much of services. So the services really, they just came into the existence late 1970s or 1980s after the advent of computers. So before that, mostly we were driven by the manufacturing. So in manufacturing, what was happening was the material was processed, raw material was processed, and it was processed through various stages. And then finally, when it came for the final inspection, then they just check the quality. And then if it was okay, then it was delivered to the customer. If it was not okay, either it was rejected or it was reworked. And then a lot of companies they found that this was creating a lot of problem, right? Say for example, you have to supply 1,000 components to customer tomorrow. So today evening, you have been giving a hope to the customer that everything will be delivered tomorrow, right? But suddenly today evening, whenever you are doing the final quality control, you find that it is not beating the specification. So out of 1,000 parts, 200 again 200 parts are rejected, and only 800 parts are okay. And again, these 200 parts again has to be started right from the beginning. So again, the process time from the first process to the end process is going to be taken 1 week. So then till yesterday, you were telling that all the 1,000 parts will be delivered tomorrow. But again, today evening, again, you will go and tell the customer that only 800 parts will come, and another 200 parts, it will take another 1 week. So again, this was creating a lot of problem. And then we found that this quality control mechanism was not really working. And again, from the customer point of view, again, he was not getting the entire quantity, or he was not getting the right quality. And from the manufacturer point of view, all the value has been added through all the various stages, but finally it is getting rejected or it is getting reworked. So again, it was adding to the cost. then they found that the quality control mechanism was not really working fine. So they wanted to go for something better. Then came the quality of the concept of quality assurance. So in quality assurance, what actually we are trying to do, we are trying to ensure that right from the selection of the supplier, then the specification for the raw materials, and then how we are going to inspect the raw material, and through the various process controls, and through the final inspection, we are ensuring that at each and every process, the inputs and process conditions are each and every process conditions are documented properly, and we are ensuring that okay, at what temperature it should be processed, at what pressure it should be what dimensions should be met. Everything will be properly documented and controlled, so that whenever you come to the final QC, then the possibility of getting any rejected lots is going to be very, very less, because right from the supplier, input raw material, inward inspection, every processes, you have checked the quality through many times at each and every step, so that whenever it comes to the final quality control, final quality, then it will be running smoothly, right? So that we call this a quality assurance system, where we are actually controlling the processes. So in quality assurance, we are controlling the processes which are producing this product in order to ensure that we get the right quality. Whereas in quality control, we are just, it is only the gate, it's the final gate, right? So we don't do any controls in the raw material or processes. We just, after all the products are made, then only at the final quality control, we just check whether it is meeting the customer specification or not. And then if it is not meeting, then we face a lot of problems. So here in quality control, we are actually controlling only the products, end products. So which was not really helping, right? So from quality control, we just went up to the next level, that is quality assurance. So the first edition of ISO 9000 was actually a quality assurance system, right? So again, a lot of requirements came in, and so right from selecting the raw material supplier till how we are going to freeze the raw material specification. So everything, all the processes we need to define, and then we need to document all those processes. And after documentation, it has to be properly approved by the concerned authorities within the organization. And then we will have to implement all those processes. And then whenever internal audit or the certification agency is coming and doing the audit, again, we'll have to provide the evidences saying that all the processes are being implemented as per the documentation, right? So that you can, the certifying agency can say, yes, now this company can be certified for ISO 9000, because they are having a robust documentation for all the processes. And then they are also able to show the evidence for implementing all those processes, right? So we call this a quality assurance system. So the first issue in 1987 and the second edition in 1994. So these two we can call this as a quality assurance system, right? So I was actually the part of implementing these ISO 1987 standards in my organization. And at that point of time, a lot of emphasis was there on documentation. So we are supposed to have more than 20 documented procedures, right? And then each and every process procedures will have maybe around 10 or 20 pages. And then whenever somebody is doing an audit, he may be an internal auditor or maybe an auditor from a certifying agency. So they will just go through the processes, and then they will say that, okay, this particular document is not signed by the approval is not there for this particular document, or temperature has to be maintained between 100 plus minus 2 degrees centigrade, but now and the flow they are maintaining at 104 degrees centigrade. So a lot of efforts were just focusing only on the documentation, right? So tons and tons of documentations were done. And the after implementing for more than 10 years, from 1987 to 1990, mid of 1990s, then again, every 7 years, 5 to 7 years, again the ISO, again they just get the feedback from all the stakeholders about whether this particular system is useful or not. And then from in those initial stages, they got a feedback that a lot of efforts at the time were wasted only on the documentation. So it was not really helping the organization to improve the quality or the services, right? So that was a feedback. And again, during the 1990s, including India, you found that a lot of liberalization took place. And again, there was a global competition was there. So again, most of the companies opened up during the 1990s, and then a lot of competition came in, and the export market became one of the very important market for most of the customers. And then they found that the ISO 9000 was not really helping them to be more competitive in the international market, either with respect to the quality or on-time delivery or price. And they were feeling that this was actually the ISO 9000 standard was not tuned to meet the um, aggressive requirement of the export requirements, right? So again, a lot of discussions took place within the various ISO bodies of the individual countries, and then they came out with this 2000 version, which is a quality management system. So in the quality management system, again the focus became again the emphasis on the documentation really came down drastically. So you can see that here I told you about 20 mandatory procedures were there. So that was reduced drastically to only 6. So there are only 6 mandatory documents required as per the ISO 2000 or 2008 version. And the focus shifted to the improving the customer satisfaction and continual improvement. So instead of going through all the documents and then ensuring whether the processes were followed as per the written down document, the role of the auditors now shifted to, again, not going through the documentation, but going through the processes and the services and then how it is being done, and to see how it is being done in ultimately with the ultimate aim of improving the customer satisfaction and making the improvement, so that it will help them to be more competitive in the international business, right? So the focus shifted from the mere documentation to improvement and improving the process improvement and customer satisfaction. So that was we call this a quality management system, right? So again, from 2000 and 2008, so these two were quality management system. But again, what was found was, again, within that, starting from the year 2000 or 2010, again, a lot of the business scenario changed drastically. So we found that there were a lot of risk was there, right? So a lot of risk was there, maybe raw material availability with respect to raw material availability or technology availability or machine availability or something like that. So again, we found that there was a lot of risk for any organization for meeting the requirements of the customer. So they may not be able to get the raw material on time, or the machines are not working as per the required specification, or the skilled manpower is not available. So because of this risk, then they were at a risk of not meeting the customer requirements in terms of quality, delivery, or price. So the 5th edition, which was released in the 2015, so that was basically a risk-based thinking. So that means now again the now hardly we have only 2 documents are there. Only the quality policy and some few 1 or 2 documents are there, which is very essential, mandatory for that. But now again, the auditors will be spending more on like how the organization is assessing what are the risks with respect to the internal and external agency. So that means with respect to the external environment. So with respect to the suppliers or with respect to the customers. So what are the risks involved for meeting the customer requirement? And then internal risk. So what are the risks internal to the organization with respect to the availability of manpower, availability of resources, etc. So the organization has to analyze what are the risks, and then what are the actions they can proactively take in order to mitigate this risk, so that they will be able to continuously they will be able to meet the customers, satisfy the customers, and then they will be improved further, right? So the objective remains the same. That means the improving the customer satisfaction and improving the processes continuously. But the way how we are going to do that was through the risk-based thinking, right? So we need to assess the risk at the various stages, both the internal and the external risk, and then how we are going to take actions to proactive action to mitigate this risk so that you will be able to improve the customer satisfaction, and we will be able to continually improve the processes. And then that became the risk-based approach, risk-based approach, and that is a fundamental for 2015. So now I think we have got a clear idea how the quality management system has evolved over the writing starting from 1987, right? So before the advent of ISO 9000, it was quality control, where we were controlling the quality only, controlling the quality of the products only at the end whenever we do the final inspection. So because of which we are unable to meet the requirements of the customer in terms of quality or on-time delivery or price. Then we went for the quality assurance system, where we were controlling the processes right from the raw material up to the final stages, so that we were able to give consistent quality. But again, that was not really helping in improving the processes or in order to meet the export stringent requirement for the export. And then it became quality management, so that the processes were to be continuously improved, and the customer satisfaction also need to be improved. And then it again came down to the risk-based thinking, so that all the risks can be proactively assessed and then actions can be proactively taken, so that we will be able to meet the customer requirement, right? So that is how the ISO 9000 has evolved over the last so many years. Okay. Now I think we are talking about what is the documentation structure. So again, the basic structure, you can see it's actually a sort of a pyramid, you can see. So the topmost level will be the quality policy. So policy. So normally each and every organization who are certified as a ISO 9000 company, so they are allowed to have a quality policy. So the quality policy will address why the company, why the organization is running, right? So the organization is running to deliver some product. So what type of commitment the organization is going to give to the customers, right? So then again, in that quality policy, again, it has to be signed by the topmost person in the organization. He may be the CEO or the managing director. So he has to give the commitment that the organization is committed to consistently meet the customer requirements and continually improve the processes, so that they will be able to satisfy or exceed the expectations of the customer. So like that, they will have to give a policy, written policy, right? So that is what we call as the apex document. That is the fundamental document. And then we will have to have at the second level, we will have to have the quality manual. So the quality level manual is actually a document which is going to be at a high level. It's a high level document. So any organization will have various functions like say marketing, sales, purchase, finance. Finance is not mainly mostly included as a part of, not coming under the purview of ISO. So the marketing, sales, purchase, production, quality, development, maintenance. So all those processes then are how at a very high level, how they are organized in order to meet the requirements of the customer. So that is being captured in the manual. So normally it is maybe a 15 to 20 page document which gives the high level information about the various processes in the organization. Then so this level 1 is quality policy. Level 2 is the quality manual, which is going to explain about the very high level what is the processes or the functions are there. So level 3 will be the procedures. So for example, if it is a purchase, then what are the different purchase processes? So again, the purchase processes, maybe we may have two or three, like one may be like what is the purchasing process for any capex, right? If you want to buy a new machine, then what is the process you are going to follow? And then for your raw materials and consumables, then what is the process? And then you may be making some emergency purchases. Then what is the process for doing that? So all those procedures have to be properly explained in a fair detail. So as per this 2015, maybe the auditors are not going to look for approved document, but they'll be just trying to interview the people, go through all the document, and then try to see whether a process is being in place or not. So that the essence they will be looking for. Okay. So that is level 3 is for a particular function, say by production. So again, a production may have 4 different departments. and then each department, so end to end, what is the process they are doing. So that has to be clearly explained, right? That is the procedure at the level 3. So level 4 is again more details about the individual activities, whatever you're doing. For example, now in a particular production department, there are 4 machines are running, 4 processes are being done using 4 different machines. So each and every machine, so how they should operate, right? So right from starting the machine, so start this, then you check whether the pressure is okay, check whether the vacuum is okay, then run some trial pieces, check the weight, check the thickness, then run it, and then so like that. Each and every activity that will be defined. And then nowadays, again, people mostly they go for some sort of a visual management. Like, so it may be like do's and don'ts, like how the process should be done and how it should not be done. So like that, they will be just giving that. That is a level 4. So that is a more detailed document. So this is actually how the procedures and work instructions. They will just give how a particular process is to be done. So that will be explained in detail in the work instruction. And then the evidences for whether that activities are being done or not. So they are captured in the form of records and forms. So for example, I'm working in an automobile company and I'm doing the hardening process. And then the process says that you just keep the temperature at 120 degrees centigrade, right? And you monitor it every hour. Every hour you just take a hourly reading, right? So that is what the work instruction says. So then once it is there, then again the auditor will be looking for, say for example, yesterday, can you just show me where you have recorded the temperature? I would like to see. So here you would have say that the temperature should be maintained between 120, say plus or minus 2 degrees centigrade. So again, you will just go through whether the temperature readings has been taken every hour and all the 24 hours, whether the reading is between 120 plus or minus 2, right? So all those he'll be able to know by going through the records and forms, right? So again, a lot of whether it's attendant, whether it is a process parameter, whether it is any inspection. So everything should be recorded in those records and forms. So that going through that, then we'll be able to know whether the procedures and workings are being followed. So that is at level 5. So this is actually the documentation level for the ISO 9000, right? Okay. So before going into the individual requirements of ISO 9000, let us quickly go through some of the definitions, right? So again, the quality policy. It is again the apex document, which is at a very high level. So the overall intentions and directions of analysis related to quality as formally expressed by top management. So as I told you, the quality policy has to be signed by the managing director or the topmost person in the organization. So that should clearly say that what is the intention, what is the direction in which the company should move, right? For example, some companies may say that if you want to focus on the on-time delivery, right? Delivery, or somebody will say that you are going to focus on the quality. So whatever the most important aspect of the company, which direction the company has to go, so that will be explained in the quality policy, right? Then in order to achieve the commitment as per the quality policy, then we'll have to keep the quality objectives. So in quality objectives, maybe most of you would have in your companies, you would have heard about this terminology KPI, right? There is a key performance indicators you can see, or process indicators. Key performance or process indicators. Say, for example, yield in your process, or the percentage on-time delivery, or the quality parameters, whatever the critical character parameters, or what is the rejection rate, productivity. So these are all some of the process indicators. So each and every indicators, we will have some targets. So for example, now the production department will have that my yield should be more than 95%, the minimum 95%. So that is the target. My productivity should be, say, 100 units per hour. So like that, they will have some target. So in order to achieve the quality policy, then we'll have to, at each and every function, like whether it's a production or maintenance. Say in maintenance, if you want to say that I want to reduce the cost, then maybe how in terms of consumable, I want to achieve some cost reduction by 5% when compared to the last year. So that may be the quality objective, right? So at each and every function, So we need to keep some targets, right? And then we will have to, every month we will have to see how much we are achieving against those targets. And then if any gap is there between our target and our actual achievement, then again we need to discuss, and then we need to take some corrective action so that we will be able to achieve the targets. So that is the quality objective. Then quality manual, as I told you, that is again the level 2 document, which is going to give the high level information about the various processes. And then quality plan. So the quality plan will give complete end-to-end process. So how it needs to be controlled, right? Right from the raw material specification, raw material inspection, then various stages of production, what conditions we need to check and what conditions we need to control, and what quality parameters we need to control at each and every processes. And then final inspection. So how many samples you are going to take, and how we are going to test all those parameters. Everything needs to be clearly documented. So that is a quality plan, right? Then documents. So document is actually the process information and its supporting medium. So the documents can be made either in paper. Previously, it was only the hard copies were there, and each and every document has to be properly, like it is prepared by, then approved by, so like that. Checked, prepared by, checked by, and approved by. So all those columns will be there, and people will be signing that, and then hard copy, and then we will have a control copy, right? So that was the initial stages in the 1980s and 1990s. But now the electronic and computer disk or any photographs, so that are also acceptable. Now most of the companies, they don't have any hard copies of the document, so they will just store it in the electronic form, right? And then the latest updated document will always be there in a folder, so anybody can access from anywhere across the globe about those documents, right? So the document can be in any form or type of medium. Then again, record, as I told you, this is where we are in some formats, right? So maintaining the, like regarding the temperature or regarding the quality parameter. So where we are recording what is actually happening in the floor. Again, this will be the evidences for whether we are following the processes as explained in the procedures or not. So that is a record. The process is a set of activities which start from the inputs into the outputs. Procedure is how you are going to carry out the activity, right? So that is a, if you are going to purchase a new item, then what is the procedure you are going to follow? You need to document that as a procedure. Work instruction is again still at a more detail, maybe at a particular machine level or a particular person level, what are the activities they have to do. So that will be explained in detail in the work instruction. Specifications, again, right from the raw material, then the process specifications and the customer specification. So again, each and everywhere, what requirement is to be met, that will be mentioned as a specification. Guidelines are again documents which is mainly for, what do you call it? It is not mandatory, but it is a best practice. For example, you may say that the operators, the employees should, maybe they may work on overtime, but again, the guideline will say that they should not work for more than 8 hours. If they work for more than 8 hours, then they may get tired, and then they may not be able to do a better quality work for the next day, right? So that is a guideline. So that means it is not mandatory to follow, but it will be a best practice to follow. We call that as a guideline. Conformity. So whenever you are doing the audit and we are finding that it is meeting the requirements, then we call it as a conformity. Non-conformity means non-fulfillment of a specified requirement. So we are saying that we are maintaining the temperature, we are measuring the temperature and recording it every 1 hour, and we are maintaining it between 120 plus minus 2 degrees centigrade. But when you do the audit, we find that between 1 p.m. to 10 p.m., we have taken only 3 readings. And then even in the 3 reading, one of the reading was 130 degrees centigrade. So that means we have not recorded the temperature every 1 hour. There was a non-conformant. And then the temperature was supposed to be maintained between 118 and 122, but again 130 was recorded. So again, these are not meeting the requirements, right? So again, these are customer complaints, the internal or external audit finding, or any process error finding. Wherever we are not meeting the requirement, we call this a non-conformant. So these are all some of the basic terminologies used in the quality management system. Again, root cause. So again, this is a very important term. Whenever you are finding a non-conformant, then again you will have to close it. So for closing it, you will have to find out root cause. Why there was a problem. For example, we are finding that why the temperature has gone up to 130 degrees centigrade, right? Why we are unable to control between 120 plus or minus 2. So you'll have to find out what are the root cause of the problem. So you may find that maybe a thermocouple there was a problem, or a heating element was not proper or something like that. So you need to find out the root cause so that you'll be able to take the corrective action. So again, whenever you are going to take the corrective action, then again there are three major terminologies you need to know: corrections, corrective actions, and preventive action. So this is mainly whenever you are finding something is not conforming. Say, for example, you are doing the audit and then you are finding that some of the process parameters are not being followed, then that comes as a non-conformance. Say, for example, you are supposed to supply a customer with a 10 millimeter rod, that is a product you are supplying, and then the customer specification say that is willing to accept from 10 plus or minus 0.5. So he is willing to accept from 9.5 to 10.5. So when the final inspection department is doing the checking, they are finding some pieces which are coming to be 10.7, more than 10.5, right? So that means it is not made in the specification. It is not conforming to the specification. Then what are the actions you can take? So the first one is about corrections. Immediate action to eliminate the direct non-conformity. So now we are getting some pieces which are around 10.7, which is not made in the, which is more than the higher specification. So that means we can decide that we can do the rework. So that means you again give back to the operator and then ask him to grind it to less than 10.5. So any action you take on the product, action taken on the product to correct the problem, correct the issue. So the customer will not accept if it is more than 10.5. So in order to ensure that it is meeting the customer specification, then we decide that we will do the rework, right? That means we are taking action on the product to correct the issue so that it is immediate action to eliminate the direct non-conformity. So we found that some pieces were not meeting the specification, and then we took the decision for immediately doing the regrinding so that we will be able to, the items will be within the specification. Then we call that as a correction. Corrective action is an action to eliminate the causes of detected non-conformities in order to prevent the recurrence. So that means you know that for the time being you have managed, right? But again, there is always a possibility that again maybe in the next shift or the next day, again the same problem may come wherein you are going to get the pieces more than the specification. So if you want to avoid that, then you need to really do some analysis on the process. Why we are getting some pieces more than 10.5, right? So again, you need to do the corrective action. So corrective action is actually the action taken on the process. Action taken on the process in order to prevent recurrence. So that means the problem has already happened once. In the first shift, you have found some pieces more than the specification. So you have taken some action immediately, you have done some rework, you have delivered to the customer. But again, you don't want the problem to repeat, right? Because again, any rework, that means your efficiency is going to be reduced. So again, you just analyze what is the process, right? So again, you just see what is the root cause of this problem. Again, you analyze what is the root cause for the getting the higher dimension. Then you may find that the tool which is grinding that particular rod, that excessive wear out was there. Because of that excessive wear out, it was not removing the required material, and that is why you are getting the dimensions on the higher side. So again, you can just take the decision of changing the tool. So once you change the tool, then you will be able to get the pieces with the right. So that means you are taking some action on the process so that the problem is not going to recur. So that is what we call as a corrective action. So preventive action is an action to eliminate the causes of potential nonconformities. So that means the problem has not happened, but we are anticipating that something may go wrong, so that we are proactively taking some action so that the problem will not occur at all. So the preventive action is the action taken on the process in order to prevent occurrence. For example, now you are having some 10 machines which are doing the outer dimension grinding for the rod. And in one machine, you are finding that there was a problem on the higher side. Then you analyzed that the problem was because of the tool wear out. And then you immediately change the tool. And then now you, as a part of the process, you just say that the tool wear out has to be checked every 8 hours. And then if required, the tool has to be changed. So this revised process you are going to put in place so that every time in the next coming days, you are going to check every 8 hours to really check whether the tool wear out is there. And if the wear out is there, you will change it so that the problem will not occur at all. The problem of higher, more than specification, that pieces will not occur at all. So that's what we call as a preventive action. So action taken on the process in order to prevent the occurrence. So again, I will just give a very simple example in the real life example. So assume that now in your house, your son got affected by malaria. So you go to the doctor, and then the doctor will give an injection and he will prescribe some medicine, right? So that is what we call as a correction, action taken on the product. So here the product is your son. So your son, you just give him medicines and tablets so that the malaria can uh, be cured. That is a correction, action taken on the product. But now you know that since the fever has come to your son, again it may come to any other family members. Or your spouse is there and your daughter is also there. So again, the three of you, again you have got a potential. You may be again affected by flu. The problem has already come at your home. Your son has already been affected. So there is always a possibility that it may recur. So again, you just make an analysis of why the problem of malaria has come. Then you may observe that in your house, you do not have any mosquito nets. So because of that, again, a lot of mosquitoes are entering the house. So that is again one of the reasons. And again, you find that near your house, some stagnant water is there. And because of that, a lot of problem is there. Again, you just go and arrange for having the mosquito net in your house. And then you also call the municipality and then ask them to give some insecticide so that the water can be devoid of any mosquitoes, right? So these are the actions we are taking on the process so that the problem does not recur. So that either you or your spouse or your daughter is not going to be affected, then we call that as a corrective action. Action taken on the process to prevent the recurrence. Then preventive action. So that means assume that in your house, nobody is really got affected by malaria, but from your friends and from your neighbors, you are hearing that malaria is spreading in your locality. Then even before somebody in your house is affected by malaria, again, you just take the action of bringing in the mosquito net and then uh, doing the insecticide, right? So that means the action taken on the process to prevent any occurrence, we call it as a preventive action. So whenever you do the audits, then after your audit report is finalized, some non-conformances, whatever are found, then again the concerned department, again they will have to give a statement, right? So what are the actions you are going to take? So they will have to write, okay, now this is the non-conformance found. So for that, these are corrections I am going to do. These are corrective action I'm going to take, and then these are preventive action I'm going to take, right? So again, once after everything has been implemented, again as an auditor, you have to go back and then check whether those actions have been taken and whether the problem has been solved. And then you can close the report. So for that, again, understanding of all these four terms is very important. Okay. So the entire ISO 9000 requirements is actually divided into seven, we call this a seven basic pillars, seven pillars of ISO 9000. So the first one is the customer focus. As I told you, the improving the customer satisfaction is one of the main core focus area for ISO 9000. The leadership. So again, the quality has to be driven from the top. So again, that is the reason why the lot of responsibility is there on this managing director, the topmost person. So in the first to fourth edition, from 1987 version, 1994, 2000, 2008 version, Then we had actually a role called as a management representative. So that means the MD or the CEO of the company, he can appoint one person who will represent him for the quality related activities, right? He will be called as a management representative. Normally, he may be the quality manager, or there may be a large organization, there will be a separate person who will be acting as a representative of the managing director. But in the 2015 version, understanding that the role of the senior management is very important, now the responsibility for implementing the quality management system is now given to the MD. So he is actually directly responsible for the successful implementation of quality management, right? Leadership is very important. Then engagement of people. So how the training and other people related activities are going to happen so that the people are more engaged in following all those procedures and documentation. Process approach. So again, the process approach says that you control the inputs, control the process, then output will always be consistent. So that is what is the process approach. So any process, for example, you are doing some activity, you are doing a process, and you are finding that some non-conformities are being produced, then don't bother too much about the output. Try to understand what is the problem in the inputs. Is there any material issue? Is there any process condition issue? Try to solve that particular problem. So try to solve the problem in the inputs, try to solve the problem in the process condition, then the output will always be consistent. That is a process approach. Then again, as I told you, the continual improvement is one of the major focus area for ISO 9000. And again, evidence-based decision making, that is very important. So again, you cannot, whenever you are going to change any conditions or any process setting, then don't take at the fly of the moment. Then you will have to have um, a proper system or a proper procedure for making the decision based upon some data-based approach, right? So again, there are some requirements. Again, we are going to learn about that when we learn about the requirement. So some requirements are there. So what type of data we are going to collect, how we are going to analyze the data, and then how we are going to make the database decision. So we need to have some processes for that. So that is the decision-based, evidence-based decision making. Then relationship management. So again, the relationship between the organization and the supplier, relationship between the organization and the customer, the relationship between the organization and the employee. So again, that is also very important for maintaining the quality management, for managing the quality. So again, that is also very important. So these are we call it the 7 pillars of ISO 9000, focus areas for ISO 9000. Okay. So again, there was one question again about what is ISO 9000. Then ISO 9001. And before that, we also had ISO 9002. And we had ISO 9004. So there was some confusing these things are there. So I will just quickly go through that. ISO 9000 is actually a general requirement for quality. So it is not going to have a very specific requirement. It is only a general requirement. And what is more important whenever a company is going to be certified by ISO 9000, then we are actually all the requirements will be specified in this particular document, ISO 9001 requirement. So initially when it came, this ISO 9000 was for design and manufacturing. So design and manufacturing of the or design and process delivery, service delivery, right? So how we are going to design your product or your service, and then how we are going to do the delivery of that product or service. So that was the scope of 9001. And 9002 was only related to delivery, that is a manufacturing, not the design part, right? But nowadays we just call that as we have only 9001. We don't have 9002. We have only 9001. And if you are not making any specific designs, you are just only producing some standard products or standard services, then you can say that this is exempted from the scope of the your quality management system. You can just make again we call that as ISO 9001. But in your quality management manual, you can write that since we are making some standard product, design is not applicable. Requirements related to design are not applicable for our processes, right? So still we call this ISO 9001, but we can have an exception, 9004 is giving some requirements. It is again not again audited by the external auditors or the certifying agency. They will be auditing only as per the ISO 9001. But the ISO 9004 is giving some guidelines for process improvement. So you can either implement it or not implement it. That is again your wish. But the audit will be done by the auditors only based upon the ISO 9001 requirement, right? So the requirement of ISO 9000, as I told you, it is again a 20-page document, which is again broadly classified into 10. So what is the scope of your quality management? So again, whether it is only the manufacturing or design and manufacturing, or what type of product or service you are providing. So you may say that we are producing some automobile components for the car industry or something like that, or we are making some electronic components which goes for telecommunication applications. So what is the scope of your process, your quality management system? Then again, normative reference, some terms and definitions. So whatever the terms and definitions we have learned so far, so that will be there in the terms and definition. And then the context of the organization. So as I told you, the one of the major inputs for the ISO 9000 system requirements will come about what are the environment in which the company is operating, right? So what are the challenges from the external environment, from the customers and suppliers, and what are the challenges which are going to come from the internal to the organization, from the employees or from the business or from the resources, etc. So you need to really understand what is the context of the organization. So you'll have to write it. For example, I had recently visited a company in Maldives. So there again, Maldives is a company where they are having a lot of imports, right? Even their basic food items, a lot of items are being imported. So that particular company is actually exporting some processed fish. But again, they find that they are having a lot of delay because the government custom clearance, they are focusing more on clearing the imports because that is the basic need for the all the people, right? So that is the external contingency or the external constraint in which they have to work. So there is a risk. So if because of the government spending more time only on the imports, again the lots which are being supplied by this fish processing industry to their customer may be delayed. So then how they are going to control that? So that again needs to be included as a part of the ISO management system. Okay. Then leadership. Then as I told you, what is the responsibility of the leadership, right? So again, what is the quality policy? Then again we are going to learn about more what are the different aspects to be covered in the leadership. Then 6 will be planning. So how we are going to do the planning? So what is the type of production planning, right? So as soon as we get from the orders, any order from the customer, so how are you going to plan for the resources in terms of the materials, machine time, and the manpower, so that we will be able to meet the customer requirement with respect to the quality, delivery, and price. Then support. In support, we will be mostly focusing on the human resources, the training, and the skills and the trainings and all the other supporting department. Operations. So right from the planning, then how we are going to execute the plan. So that will be the operation, mostly related to the productions or providing the services. Then the performance evaluation. So this is what we call it the monitoring of the processes, right? So each and every process, whatever we are doing, so how we are going to monitor and control the processes that we need to define. And then improvement. So what are the mechanisms or methodologies we are going to follow in order to make the improvements? So that all this needs to be included as a part of the system. So all those we call this a class. So we call this a classes. This 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. We call this a classes. Again, there was a question like, why do you call there as a 9,000? Is there any significance in number? So there is no significance. There is 9,000, 14,000, 27,000. These are all only numbers, right? So again, we are having more than some 400, 500 different requirements are there, like ISO standards are there. So these numbers are given arbitrarily. So there is no logic for giving any numbers for that. Okay. So major, as I told you, the one of the basic approach for the ISO 9000 is the process approach. So where again, if you say the process approach is you control the inputs, control the process conditions, output will always be consistent. So again, the inputs for the this particular quality management system will be the customer requirement. So whatever the product or service we are giving to the customer. So again, we have the customer requirement. Then we are already analyze the context, right? So what are the risks or what are the constraints we are having, both with respect to the internal and external factors. So again, we need to, that will be one of the inputs. And then needs and expectations of the relevant interested parties. So interested parties are stakeholders, right? So even though for example, I am a company, I am working for a company who are manufacturing cars, right? So the customers, they give the requirement in terms of what should be the color, what should be the design, what should be the fuel efficiency. All those requirements will be given by the customer, right? But one of the very important stakeholder is the pollution control department, right, of the government agency. So they will just have some norms. So the whatever the exhaust let out by the car, so that should meet a particular pollution control norms, right? So that's what we call as a requirement of the stakeholders. So the requirement of the customer, requirement of all the stakeholders, and the risk, whatever you have analyzed, both internal and external to the organization. So that will be the input to the entire quality management system. Then we will just work through all the other classes, whatever we have seen. And then finally, this will result in the improved customer satisfaction and the improved products and services. So sort of a process approach is being implemented in this applied in quality management system. Okay. So now we will just come to what are the different types of audit. So there are three types of audits are there. The first one is a first party audit, right? So whenever in your own department or in your own organization, you are doing an organization, right? You are doing an audit. Then we call that the first party audit or an internal audit. So for example, normally any company where you are implementing ISO 9000, then you will have a list of internal auditors. Maybe around 10 or 15 people will be selected. They will be given the training, and then they will be exposed to all the requirements of ISO 9000. Then they will also be given training on how to do the audit, so that a person from the production department, he can go and audit the quality department, right? So the person cannot audit his own department. So that is one of the basic rule for doing any audit. A production person cannot audit a production department. So he can audit a maintenance department or a quality department or a marketing department, right? So that is the internal first party audit. Second party audit is actually the audit done by the customer. For example, one of your prestigious customer would like to come and audit your own processes, right, as a supplier. So again, we call this a second party audit. Audit on a supplier by a customer. Third party audit are normally the certification agency. So once in 3 years, whatever the ISO certification they are giving, this has to be recertified every 3 years, right? So again, every 3 years, the certifying agency auditors will come, and then they will do the audit, and then they will do the recertification. So whenever they come and do the audit, and then do the certification or recertification, we call this a third party audit. So first party audit is actually a internal audit, internal to the organization. Second party audit is the audit done by the customer on any of the suppliers. And third party audit is usually the audit done by the certifying agency. Okay. Then let us see how because now when it started in the year 1987, a lot of buzz was there, and then a lot of controls were there. But over a period of time, what happened was a lot of small companies also they started certifying the companies for the ISO certification. So the quality of the certification really came down. And in order to have a check on that, then ISO came out with this particular structure. So as an organization, if you want to go for ISO 9000 certification, then you have to approach the certifying body. So some of the most commonly well-known certifying agencies are like DNV. You would have heard about KPMG. You would have heard about TUV. Then so like that again. So these are the certifying agencies. So these are the agencies who will be coming and doing the audit on the organization. And if they are satisfied, they will issue the certificate to the organization. But again, whatever the audit they are doing, again, those audits report, they will have to submit it to the accreditation body. So this accreditation body, so they will again be doing the audit on the audits done by the certification body. For example, in a particular month, the DNB has done 30 audits on 30 different organizations. So again, this accreditation body, they will randomly pick up some 3 or 4 audits, and then they will check whether all the audits have been done as per the procedure given to them, right? So that the accreditation body, they will certify. If they find that a lot of discrepancies are there in the way the audits are done, then they may revoke the certification status from this particular certification body, right? So in that way, it is controlled. These accreditation bodies, again, they are part of the International Accreditation Forum, IAM. So in this way, if whenever if you in your company, if you want to go for this ISO 9000 certification, you will have to see which certification body you are going to go for, and this certification body is accredited by whom, and whether this accreditation body is a member of the International Accreditation Forum. So many times you may find that if any some duplicate or some people are there, then you may find that they may not be the members of IAM. You may find that this link is cut, right? So if the accreditation body is not a member of the IAM, then even if you are going to get the ISO 9000 certificate, it may not be valid, right? If any of your customer is a very knowledgeable customer, and he finds that your accreditation body is not a member of IAM, then he will not validate the ISO certification, whatever you have got. So you'll have to be very careful whenever you are selecting your certification body, and so you'll have to check which accreditation body is giving the accredited the certification body, and then whether this accreditation body is a member of IAM. If the link is not established, then you should not go to that particular certification body. Okay. So quickly to go through what are the different, how you can implement ISO 9000 in any organization. So first you have to identify the requirements of ISO 9000 and how they apply to the business involved, right? So again, there are some standards requirements of ISO 9000 are there. So you'll have to, again, you'll have to first get that bunch of standards. Again, as I told you, that is a 20-page document. So first start with making the document in the quality policy, then establish in order to meet the quality policy, what are the objectives, different departments, what objectives, targets they have to meet. Then this quality policy and quality objectives that has to be communicated throughout the entire organization, so that they have a clarity of what they have to do and what target they have to achieve with respect to the quality. Then we have to identify the boundaries of the management system and produce the documented procedures. So we'll have to write for each and every process, whatever we are doing. So we'll have to document how we are doing that. And then once we have documented all the procedures and work instruction, then we'll have to ensure that the procedures are suitable and adhered to. So again, we'll have to ensure that all those following all those procedures, we'll have to properly document either in the form of the records or format, so that anybody who comes and does an audit, he will have evidences that these particular processes are being followed. Then once system is maturing within the organization, then you can conduct your own internal audits, and then you can just check whether the documents are available and the processes are being followed as per the documentation. There are two steps you have to check whenever you do the internal audit. First thing is you have to check whether the documents are available. So whether the documents are available, and then if the documents are available, then are they implemented? So these are the two aspects you will have to check as an internal auditor. So documents are available in order to meet the ISO 9000 requirement, that you will have to check. And then if that is met, then whether all the activities, whatever being followed in the flow, whether they are meeting the documents. So that we'll have to check. If there is a documents are not available or activities are not as per the documentation, then there can be the non-conformance. So again, these are all some of the benefits of implementing ISO 9000 certification. So again, initially it was mainly in the late 1980s and early 1990s. Getting the ISO certification was actually, you can say, that is a key for the export market, because all the international customers, they were looking for a minimum of this ISO 9000 certification. So that way, that was one of the major benefits for getting the ISO certification. Then automatically, since we are going to have the control over the processes, then our productivity, efficiency will improve and the cost will get reduced. And we will be able to give a consistent product and service performance. And then, since our processes are going to be focused more on the improvements and customer satisfaction, we will be able to have a competitive edge over our uh, competitors, so that we will be able to have more market share and more sales opportunity, better customer service, and higher satisfaction level. So these are the benefits of getting the ISO certification. So whenever you want to implement these ISO 9000 in your own area, production function or production or maintenance or quality, so first you'll have to, in your company, you'll have to make the quality policy, quality objectives and manual. Then if you are the departmental head, then you'll have to, whatever the different processes being done in your own department, you'll have to write down all the procedures and all the documentation, the work instructions and all the records and format, that you have to create the entire documentation structure. Then when the regular activities are going on, you are implementing the process, then you have to ensure that all the evidences for following all those documentation is being followed or not. So that has been captured in the records and formats, whatever you're on a daily basis. Then whatever the records, your evidences you are getting in terms of the records and everything, so you'll have to analyze. Again, you'll have to again write a procedure for how you are going to analyze the data, right? So that if any problems are there or any improvement opportunities are there, so that can be identified and then action can be taken on that. So that's why we call that establish the monitoring, measuring and analyzing process. So whenever you are doing a particular activity process, then again going through the records, we will have to analyze how our process is performing, and then what are the problems we are having, and then what are the root causes of the problem, so that we can take action so that the process can be improved. So once this is established, then we'll have to do the internal audit, and then we'll have to continually improve the processes. So these are the responsibilities of the process owners towards the ISO 9000. Okay. So again, as I told you, there are different classes are there from 1 to 10, but 1, 2, 3, that is not a very, there are not requirements are there. This is only the scope. If you go back, the class 1 is referring only to the basic scope of the ISO quality management system. The 2 is going to give only the normative reference. So how means your suppliers, your organizations, and your customers, how they are linked to each other. So how they are referred. So what type of industry you are serving. So which type of customers you are supplying. So that you have to give some reference, the normative reference. And then 3 is actually terms and definition. So there are actually no requirements from class 1, 2, 3. So the requirements will start from class 4 to 10, right? So from class 4 to class 10, you will have the requirements. So the class 4.1. So under class 1, that is the context of the organization, right? So again, you will have to class 4.1 is understanding the organization and its context, understanding the needs and expectations of the stakeholders. Then what is the quality management systems and its processes, and then defining the scope of the quality management system. So whenever you are making this documentation for class 4, then you have to ensure that all these 4 aspects are covered, right? So whenever you say the understanding the organization and its concept, so what are the external factors and what are the internal factors? So what are the external factors, external to the organization, external factors, and what are the internal factors, which is going to have the impact on the quality management system. So again, as I told you, it may be the resource constraint, it may be the government, as I told you, again, constraints from the government agencies, or it may be the consent with respect to the any pollution or something like that. So what are the internal and external factors which is having the impact on this thing? You have to clearly identify that. Again, you need to understand what are the needs and expectations of all the stakeholders, right? Again, you have to document that. And then what is the overall quality management system and what are the different processes, right? So again, you can just define the manufacturing, the production process, maintenance process, purchase process, like that. So again, you'll have to define that. Then what is the scope of the quality management system? So again, you have to be very specific. The document, that particular scope document has to be very clear. So the organization is doing the production of the standard design of components, maybe the resistors for the telecommunication or telephone applications, right? So the scope of the quality management system has to be clearly defined. So these are the different requirements under class 4. And if you see the class 5, again, that is about the leadership. So what should be the requirements? That should be met by the leadership. So the leadership and commitment. So whenever you are doing the audit, then you have to see how the directions and the instructions are coming from the senior-most person toward the improvement of the quality and the quality management system, right? So what is the process we are having for that? So that is 5.1. So 5.2 is policy, quality policy, and 5.3 is the organization roles and response authorities, right? So again, you like to have a hierarchical structure of, so right from starting from the MD, overall reporting to the MD, and then overall reporting to the senior management people. So like that, the entire organization structure, and then what are the roles and responsibilities and authorities that must be clearly defined. So these are all the requirement under class number 5. So you can see that, for example, now class number 5 is leadership. Then 5.1 is leadership. Say, for example, again, I will just show you the how it is. It will be structured like. Say, for example, now if you take the quality policy, 5.1 is leadership and commitment. And under 5.1, then we have 5.1.1 and 5.1.2. So 5.1.1 says that top management is accountable for QMS. So that means when we say the top management, we are talking about the topmost person in the organization. It is not the general senior management. We are talking about the top management. That is the senior most person in the organization, CEO or the MD. So what is his roles and responsibilities, and then how he is contributing to the quality management system. That has been clearly documented. Then 5.1.2 is the customer focus. So what are the different customer and the regulatory requirements that should be maintained? So what is the process you are having to understand what are the customer requirements and what are the regulatory requirements? So as I told you, if you are going to manufacture the car, assemble the car, then what are the requirements of the customer, and then what are the requirements for the other government agency like the safety or the pollution board, etc. So what are the processes we are having for determining, understanding, and meeting the requirements of the customers and the regulatory bodies, right? So that is about 5.1. So 5.1.1 and 5.1.2. So these are the under 5.1. Under 5.2, that is quality policy. So in quality policy, so again, you have to see how the quality policy is defined, and then again, it should be appropriate to the purpose and context of the organization and its support its. So 5.2.1 says whether the quality policy is available or not. And then 5.2.2, again, it is talking about how the quality policy is communicated to all the employees, right? So what is the process we are having within the company to ensure that it is being properly communicated at all levels, right? So like that, again, in some of the classes, it may go up to the third level also, like 5.1.1.1. 5.1.1.2, like that, right? So each and every one of those clauses will be a requirement. And whenever you are doing the audit, then you will be auditing whether those requirements are met. So again, this is an example of a quality policy. So quality class number 6 is about the planning. So what are the actions we are going to take in order to address the risks and opportunities? So in the class 4, you have just analyzed the requirements of the customer, stakeholders. You also analyze the internal and external constraints. So based on that, how you are going to plan your actions in order to meet the requirements of the customers and stakeholders. And then how are you going to achieve the quality objectives and planning? And then how are you going to make the plan for the changes? Class 7 is about the supporting, mainly about the resources. So when we talk about the resources, it is both for the material as well as the human resources. Then how are you going to ensure that the manpower you are going to do the process, so whether they are competent enough, whether they are aware of their roles and responsibilities, and then how is the internal communication, right? And then documented information. So documented information is about all the procedures and work instruction. So again, under 7.1, again we will have 7.1.1, 7.1.2, 7.1.3 like that. So again, that will go through. So again, these are the mandatory requirements as per the ISO 9001 2015. The scope of the QMS, it is only a sentence. It is not a very big document. Then quality policy is again a mandatory document. Then quality objectives, what are the different KPIs you are going to maintain in your organization? That is a requirement. Criteria for evaluation and selection of suppliers. Right? So only you can see that the documentation is really very, very less in the 2015 version when compared to the previous version. So it's only you will have to, as an auditor, you will have to observe whether the people are aware about a particular process to be followed and then whether they are following as per the documentation, right? So that's what you have to look for. So class number 8 is about the operations, right? So how we are going to deliver the product or service. So right from the planning and control, then requirements for the specification of the products and service, design and development. So if your company is not designing any product, then you can say that this 8.3 is not under the scope of the quality management system. Then control of externally provided processes, products and services. So this is mainly about subcontracting. So sometimes what may happen is maybe out of 5 processes, maybe 2 processes, you may just give it for subcontracting. You may give it to some outside party. So either for maybe that specified machine is not there, or maybe that expertise is not there in your organization. Then how are you going to control those subcontracting activities? So that be there in 8.4. Then production and service provision. So right from the raw material up to the final quality inspection, what are the different processes you are going to do? That will come under the production and service provision. Then release of products and services. So that is about final QC, final quality control. So how many samples you are going to take, then what are the different parameters you are going to check, and then what is going to be your acceptance criteria. All those will be defined as the final quality control. Then control of non-conforming outputs. So at each stage of production and at the final inspection, if you are going to get products which are not meeting the specification, then what is the process you are going to follow in order to control those non-conforming products, right? So these are all some of the requirements of the operation. Then class 9 is about the performance evaluation. So this is about the analysis, this is a monitoring, measurement, analysis, and evaluation, right? So whatever the records you are collecting from the various processes by the controlling the inputs, characteristics, or the process condition, then you will have to analyze the data, and then you will have to, based on the analysis of the data, you will have to take some improvement action. So that is again one part of the class 9. Class 2 is about 9.2 is about the internal audit. So what are the audits mechanism you are going to have, so that maybe each department has to be like, you have to specify depending upon the type of problem you are going to have. Maybe each department may be audited once, or once in a month, or once in 2 months, or something like that. So you'll have to make a proper audit plan. You'll have to do the audit, and then you have to close the audit points, right? So what is the process you are going to have for the internal audit? Then management review. So the management review is normally conducted by the managing director, and then it is attended by the senior management people, right? So about the entire quality management system, how it is performing. So starting from the analysis of the customer satisfaction index, you have to measure the customer satisfaction index, and then if the satisfaction levels are less, then what to do. Then what about the audit report? So what are the major points for the audit reports? What improvements can be done? So all those things, so that will be reviewed by the any type of resources need to be given in terms of material or manpower or any sophisticated machine. So all those points should be discussed at a very high level, organized by the managing director and attended by the senior management. And then all the minutes of the meeting has to be properly documented. And then again, all those minutes has to be implemented. So that is about the management review. So these are all coming under the performance evaluation. So how the quality management system is performing. So that has to be monitored through these 3 processes. And then finally, class number 10 is about the improvement. So what are the general improvement methodology you are going to follow? So are you going to implement some TPM or Six Sigma or Lean or any TQM or something like that. So what methodology you are going to use for making the improvement? Then non-conformity and corrective action. So how are you going to control the non-conforming product, and what is the process you are having for implementing the corrective and preventive action? The third one, 10.3, is for the continual improvement, right? So again, these are all at a very high level, and as I told you, again, subclasses may be there, sub-subclasses may be there. So put together all those maybe around 100 to 150 requirements will be there, and you will have to ensure that all the processes has be defined. Then procedures have to be made, work instructions have to be made, and then all those following that procedures and work instructions, that has to be evidenced by using the records and format. And then at the time of doing the audit, you will have to go through whether the procedures and work instructions are available, and if available, then whenever you are auditing, whether those work instructions and the procedures are being followed or not. And if any documents are not available, or document is available but not implemented, that will be a non-conformance. And then as an auditor, you can just compile all those non-conformances, and then you can submit your audit report. So that is about the general way of the fundamentals of this ISO 9001, right? Okay. Any questions or any clarifications needed? So again, as we started off with the how you do the finance audit. So again, in a finance audit, again, some requirements are there, maybe in terms of meeting the GST taxes and then income tax and everything. So some SEBI norms and everything. So some standards are, some requirements are there from the government and from the stakeholders and from the shareholders. So whether all those requirements are met or not, so that is being audited in a financial auditor, right? So similarly, in a ISO 9000 for the quality management system, so quality related requirements are there, which are specified in the ISO 9001 2015 requirement documentation. And then a company who wants to implement, will be certified as ISO 9000 company, so they will have to make the documentation meeting all those requirements specified in the document and in the ISO requirement document. And then when at the time of doing the certification audit, they will have to provide the evidences for the availability of the documents as per the ISO 9001 requirement. And then they will have to also show the evidences for following those documents. And then based upon this, certification can be done. So that is the summary of what we have learned so far. Okay. Any doubt or clarification? You can ask me. Okay, so now what you can do is a small quiz you can take. So you can just go to HTTPS. I will just give the link to you. So there again, you can just open this, and you will have a quiz for 5 questions under ISO 9001 2015 fundamental requirements, right? So you can just try to attend those quiz. So maybe I'll just give you 5 minutes for attending the quiz. Sorry, I will just retype the link. It is ICEQBS.org. You can just click on that and tell me that whether you are able to open this. Again, you can see there are under ISO 9001 2015, there are 2 quizzes are there. You can just go and work on ISO 9001 2015 fundamentals. 5 questions are there. Maybe you can, once you confirm, once you complete, you will have to enter your mail ID. You can start the quiz, and once you submit, then your results will go to your mail ID, and then we can also discuss the right answers in the class. So once you have completed, you can just inform in the chat box. And once all of you confirm, then we can have a quick chat on the right answers. Okay, so I'll wait for another 1 more minute. Then once most of you have submitted, then we can have a quick discussion on the right answers. So 3 of you have answer completed. So last 30 seconds. Okay, so question number 1, the expansion for ISO is International Organization for Standardization, right? It is not International Standardization Organization. It is International Organization for Standardization. That is the question for question number 1. B for boy, that is the right answer. Question number 2, Integrated Management System, IMS, consists of all the three, ISO 9000, ISO 14000, and ISO 27000. 9000 is the quality management system, 14000 is the environment management system, and 27000 is the information security management system, right? So for question number 2, C for cat, that is the right answer. So ISO 9001, 2015 version is risk-based thinking, right? For question number 3, B for boy, that is the right answer. So 1987 and 1994 version, there are quality assurance system. 2000 and 2008, they are the quality management system. And there is nothing like quality improvement system, right? 2015 is risk-based thinking. Question number 4, taking action on the process to avoid any recurrence of non-conformance is corrective action. Taking action on the product to correct the mistake, that is the correction. Taking action on process to avoid occurrence of non-conformance is non-corrective action. Taking action on the process to ensure that there is no occurrence of any non-conformance, that is the preventive action. So for question number 4, A is the right answer. Second party audit is an audit conducted by a customer on the supplier organization. So for 5, C for cat is the right answer, right? Okay. Okay. Are there any doubts or clarification on this? Okay, now I think this is a time for us to go for the break now. Maybe we can take a break for 30 minutes. But before that, I will just wanted to get a feedback about. Oh, okay. Okay, not that. Okay. So maybe now this is a time for us to go for a break now. So we'll take a break for 30 minutes from now. And then after the break, we will just learn about what is audit. So what are the different terminologies related to auditing? And then what are the different steps? And then how to do an audit, right? What are the do's and don'ts? So that will be learning just after the break. So we'll take a break for 30 minutes from now. Okay. Thank you. Okay, can you start? Type yes in the chat box if you are ready. Okay, thanks for your confirmation. So before proceeding further, I just take a quick feedback about how we are doing, whether you are able to understand correctly, whether my voice is loud and clear. So I'm just launching a poll, so you can just answer it, give your feedback. Then based on that, I can just adjust my speed. Okay, so I'm launching the poll now. So you can answer all those 4 questions. Okay, thanks for your feedback. So I think I need to talk a bit slow. Some feedback I'm getting. Okay, so I will just adjust my speed accordingly. Okay, so now I will just move to the second part. That is auditing. So what is an audit and how we can plan and conduct the audit, and what are the different activities we do in the auditing. So that's what we are going to learn now. Okay. So if you really see what is auditing is an independent, objective assurance designed to add value and improve an organization's processes. So that is what is the definition of the audit. So it is an independent. So when I say independent, the person cannot audit his own department. So that is the basic rule in auditing. A person cannot do cannot audit his own department. So that is why we say it is independent. The second point is it's objective. So when I say objective, when you do the audit, then you cannot just say that, okay, this department is very bad. They are not at all following the procedures, or they don't have any documents. So like that, you cannot give any opinion. So whatever the observations or results you are giving, audit finding, so that has to be objective. So that means you will have to produce some evidence. So if you say that documentation is not correct, then you have to specify which document is not available. For example, you have to say quality policy is not available in the entire department. So that is a non-conformity. You cannot just like that say that the documentation is bad, right? So it is objective. So whatever the findings you are going to give, it has to be purely based on the objective evidence. And this is the audit should add value and improve an organization's processes. So many times the people feel that auditing means it is done in order to find fault with the people. So that is actually not correct, right? The real purpose of auditing is not only to find fault with the people. So you need to really see whether the enough procedures and documents, whether they are available, and if they are available, whether they are being followed correctly or not. And accordingly, you will have to make an audit report saying the documents are available or not available, and they are implemented or not implemented. So it is only you are providing only objective evidence of what is happening in the flow. So don't think that audit should highlight that people are not doing good, right? So the audit brings a systematic, disciplined approach to evaluate and improve the effectiveness of processes. For example, now we are consulting for one of the chain of supermarkets here. So whatever we found that maybe 10 or 15 important points, so we wanted the discipline to be introduced. Then we introduce some audit, right? So for example, when they are opening the shop, then when they are making they have to give a photograph, and then about the attendance. So they are supposed to give some information in a WhatsApp group at a specified time. And then again, we are doing an audit, again, whether that is done or not, right? And then finally, at the end of the day, that auditor will just consolidate all, and then he will give a report out of this 15 points, how many shops are really conform to the all the points or where they are going wrong, so that you can take action, right? So we are not trying to find fault with any people or any team. We are trying to really know what is happening and what is not happening. That is the purpose of doing an audit. So why audit is important? In order to ensure that conformance with requirement. So that means we should, by doing the audit, we should be able to confirm whether all the processes are clearly defined. And second thing is whether all the processes are followed as per the documentation. So we are ensuring the conformance. Then by doing the audit, we'll be able to detect and correct non-conformities. If you don't do the audit at all, then what may happen is that slowly people will start deviating from the documented procedures, and then a lot of confusion will be there in the flow. By doing the audit, we will immediately know whenever there is a deviation from the processes, or whenever proper processes are not available, so that we can immediately correct the non-conformities. So detect and correct non-conformities. That is one of the major, that is the reason why audit is important. The third one is very important: provide unbiased facts to management. So sometimes what happens is, maybe I am an internal auditor and I am going to do an audit in one of the department, and I have a personal grudge against that departmental head. Then I should not make my audit a biased audit in order to paint that that department is doing very bad. So in that case, I am not doing a justification for an auditor, right? So whenever you are doing an audit, then you have to be professional in approach. So whatever is you are finding, whether it is correct or whether it is wrong, you will have to give correct and unbiased fact to the management without any personal bias. That is very important. The audits will highlight the strengths as well as weaknesses. So the audit is not done only to find what is not conforming. If some departments are doing some activities very good, maybe they are following some best practices, then that also can be highlighted. So you can say that this department, I'm finding that this activity is done, maybe they are doing something different. So it is worth noting, right? It is appreciated, right? So like that, we will have to highlight both the strengths as well as the weaknesses. And audits also will help in identifying areas of improvement. So wherever the possibilities of improvement is there, that also can be highlighted through the audit. What is very important to avoid in audit is that you should not give opinions or decisions. So you should not say without any solid evidence, you should not say that all the processes are not documented or this department is very bad, right? Don't give any opinion or don't give any decision. You say that this process should be followed this way. So you are not actually expert in their process. So whatever their requirements are there as per ISO 9000, whether those requirements are met through the documentation that you are going to check, and whatever they are documented, whether that is implemented. So that you are going to check. And if anything is mismatching, then you are going to note down and give it as a report, objective report, right? So that is what is really needed. So don't give any opinions or decisions. That is not the job of an auditor. Okay. So what are the different benefits the teams can get because of an audit? So the audits will help you to identify any deviations from the performance standards and expectation. So this ISO 9000 has got specific requirements. So whether those specific requirements are met or not with respect to documentation and implementation, the individual teams will be able to know by going through an audit. Positive change within the team that improves the overall results of operations. So normally the audits are considered as a third eye. You can call that as a third eye view of the process. So somebody who is not at all involved in the process, so he is going to observe that process very closely, and then he is going to look it from a different point of view, and he is going to give the evidence of what he is seeing, right? So once you are able to know that, then you will be able to make some improvements. For example, your own nose, you will not be able to see, right? So similarly, whenever some mistakes are repeatedly done in your department, if you are internal to the department, you may not be able to recognize that. But if an outside person is coming and saying that something different is happening other than what is documented, then that can be an eye opener for you. And then you'll be able to make positive changes. So the audits will help you to identify opportunities for improvement of efficiency and effectiveness in the team's daily operations. So by just giving a unbiased objective evidence of what is happening and what is not happening, then you will be able to identify the improvement for opportunities. So these audits reports will also help you to facilitate discussions to develop solutions and promote operational efficiency. Investigate into possible irregularities or inconsistency. So if some non-conformities are found, then you can try to investigate further and try to find out where the actual problem is. Okay. So before going into the integrities of the audit, let us now try to understand some of the basic definitions of terms. So our first term is auditor. Auditor is a person with competence to conduct an audit. So not all people can do an audit, right? It is an art. So it is a skill. So the persons who have developed these skills, only they can do the audit. And he should be like trained and he should be competent to conduct an audit. Auditee is an organization or a department or individual being audited. So, for example, if the certifying agency is coming and doing an audit on the organization, then the auditee will be the entire organization. Then the certifying auditor, he will just prepare a plan of which are the departments which are going to be audited. And once he reveals that information, then the organization has to make some individuals responsible for each department's audit, right? So any organization or department or individuals who are being audited, so we call them as auditee. Then what is audit? Audit is systematic, independent, and documented process for obtaining evidence and evaluating it objectively to determine the extent of conformance and non-conformance. So whenever you are doing an audit, so you will have to systematically go. So there is a laid down procedure is there. This is the step-by-step activities you do in an audit. So it has to be a systematic process. Independent, that means you should be doing the person who is working in a department, he cannot audit his own department. So it is independent and it is a documented process. So once you do an audit, then you will be just taking a checklist, then to see like what are the points you are going to look, and then at the time of doing the audit, you are going to complete the checklist, and based on what you have observed during the audit, by using the checklist, you will be able to make the final report. So it is a documented process, right? So at the time of doing the audit, you are going to fill up a checklist, and after completing the audit, by using the information from the checklist, you are going to make a final audit report. So it is a documented process. So what actually you are trying to do, you are trying to obtain the evidences. So whether the document is available, whether the process is implemented as per the document. So you are going to look for some evidences by referring to the reports and the formats, the template, and then based on that, you are going to objectively determine whether they are conforming or non-conforming, right? So you are going to follow a systematic approach. It is independent, and you are going to document through the checklist and the audit report. Finally, you are going to objectively say whether processes are being followed or not, whether it is a conformance or non-conformance. So what is a conformance? Fulfillment of requirement. So for example, the requirement as per ISO 9000 with respect to quality policy says that quality policy should be available in the organization and it should be displayed at important places in the organization, right? So when you go and do the audit and you find that in the receptionist room, in the MD's room, in the departmental head's room, the quality policy is displayed. So that means it is meeting the requirements, right? Then we call that as a conformance. And the second point for the quality policy says that the quality policy should be communicated at all levels within the organization. So that is the requirement. So whenever you are doing the audit, you can randomly select some few employees and then ask them to ask them whether they know what is the quality policy. So you don't expect them to by heart and then tell all the points in the quality policy, but at least the very important points they should be able to say. If they are totally unaware about the quality policy, so that means that is not fulfilling the requirement, then it's a non-conformant. So if any requirement with respect to documentation or implementation, if it is met, we call that as a conformant. And if any documentation or implementation is not fulfilled, then we call this a non-conformant. So whenever you are doing the audit, maybe you just make a checklist, check around 20 or 25 or 50 randomly determined points. And then at the end, you can see whether which points are conforming and which points are not conforming. And accordingly, you can make your reports. Then audit evidence. records or statements of fact or other information which are relevant to audit criteria and verifiable. So as I told you, for example, if your process document says that the temperature should be maintained between 100 plus minus 2 degrees centigrade, and the recordings need to be noted every hour. And then on a particular date, you are finding that between 11 a.m. and 5 p.m., only 2 readings have been taken. And in one of the reading, the temperature was 110 degrees centigrade. Then you can just make note of it, saying that this particular format number, this particular date, the document says that there are temperature reading has to be recorded every hour, but with 5-hour period, only 2 data points are required, and 1 data point is out of specification. So that is the evidence, right? So that record of showing the temperature reading, that is an evidence. So that will be the basis on which you are going to make the final report. Audit criteria. So audit criteria is the set of policies, procedures, or requirements which is used as a reference against which audit evidence is compared. So audit criteria is the documents which you are going to use for the audit. The manual, the procedures, the work instructions, records, and all the specifications. So all those will compile about the audit criteria. So you are going to take all those inputs from all these documents, and then you are going to see whether they are being implemented as per the written down procedures, right? That is audit criteria. Audit program or audit plan. All activities necessary for planning, organizing, and conducting the audits. So as I told you, the conducting the audit is actually some set of activities needs to be done. And so we'll have to see, we'll have to plan, we'll have to conduct, then we'll have to make the report, and then we'll have to follow up. So it is a 4-step process which you are going to learn in detail in the coming slides. Audit scope. Extent and boundaries of an audit, including a description of the physical locations, activities, and processes, and the time period covered. Okay, so that is very important. Whenever you are doing the audit, then as an auditor, you should not cross the boundaries. So for example, if within the production department, so 4 sub-processes are there, and your audit plan is to do the audit of only this particular process, sub-process, then you should not go back to the previous one, or you should not go to the next one. You should limit your process only to what is defined in your audit plan. So again, that is very important, right? Physical location. So if you are doing an audit in one particular department, so you should be doing the audit within the department, should not go outside, and any other process should not be audited. So you should focus only what is within the scope of your audit. Then audit findings. Results of the evaluation of the collected audience evidence against audit criteria. So again, whenever you are filling the checklist, then you just check and then say whether it is meeting the specification or against the document or not, right? And then accordingly, you will make a finding, either whether it is conforming or not conforming to the requirements. That is audit finding. Then audit conclusion is the outcome of an audit. So provided by the audit team after consideration of the audit objectives and all findings. So for example, if I am doing an audit, certification audit, and then I have summarized all the findings, then at the end of the audit, I will just again call for a closing meeting and then tell that these are the audit findings. And then based on the audit finding, I recommend or I do not recommend for the certification of the organization as per ISO 9000. That is what is the audit conclusion, right? So audit conclusion should be based upon the findings, whatever you are going to give. If more non-conformances are there in your finding, then you can say that I am not recommending for certification. But if most of the points are conforming to the requirement, then you can say I recommend awarding this ISO 9000 to this particular organization. That is what is audit conclusion. So these are all some of the important definition points. Then what is audit criteria? So audit criteria means the reference document which will be used for doing the audit. So this will consist mainly of the main process flow documents, right? So for the department or for the process, whatever you are going to audit, so what are the main process flow documents, are the high level process flow document, then sub process flow documents. So there'll be next level will be something more detailed documentation will be there. There is a sub process flow document, then working sections for each and every machine or each and every process, what are the different activities to be done, that working section. Then the records, any checklist or any report formats, etc. Then files and mails referred in the document. So the document they should say, they might have said that um, email is received from the supplier or customer or from some other department. So if they are mentioning that, then you can also audit the mailbox also. So whatever the documents and the mails, etc., available, where based on which you are going to do the audit, so that will be the audit criteria. So the audit guidelines, again, as I was telling you, the auditors will not audit their own department. The monthly audit plan will contain the week in which the audit has to be concluded. So if you are working for a company which is certified for ISO 9001, so you'll always find that there will be a one annual plan. For the internal audit, you will have an annual plan. So the organization may have a pool of maybe 10 internal auditors may be there from various departments. So the person who is coordinating the internal audit, then he can ensure that the monthly audit plan for the year, maybe if 10 departments are there, maybe each department can be audited maybe twice or thrice in a year. And then which auditor is going to audit which department in which month. So that will be the annual plan. Then once the annual plan is made, then based on this, the monthly audit plan has to be done. For example, in a particular month, 5 audits are planned. Then these 5 audits, who are the auditors, who are the auditees, and which are the documents based on which audits will be done. So that should be properly planned. That is the monthly plan. Then once the monthly plan is available, then the auditors are responsible for fixing up the mutually convenient date and complete the audit. Normally, whenever you make the monthly audit plan, you just mention only the week in which the audit will be completed. So Monday to Saturday or Friday, the days are available. So during the week during which the audit has to be completed, both the auditor and auditee, they can just agree upon mutually convenient time and date, and then the audit can be completed. In case an auditor is unable to complete the audit within the stipulated time, it is his or her responsibility to report to the head QA, right? So that some alternate arrangements can be made. So what are the different types of audits which we can do? Planned audits. So mostly whenever you are doing the audit in any organizations, then mostly you will be doing a planned audit. As I told you, annual plan will be available, then monthly plan will be available. And then the auditor and auditee can fix up a time so that the auditee is well informed before the audit is going to take place so that he can be ready. So that's what we call that as a planned audit. Sometimes audits can be conducted without prior notice also. So sometimes maybe the customer is finding a lot of problem with the product or service provided by the supplier. Then he may decide that he wants to do a surprise audit, right? So that he can, without advanced information, he can just go to the supplier's place and then see exactly what is happening. So, for example, assume that a customer is getting some goods, some food items from a supplier, and is finding that a lot of hairs and foreign materials are there in the food product. But the supplier is insisting that his employees or wearing the headband and all the coat and shoes and everything. Everything is worn. All the safety mechanisms are there in place. So that's what the supplier is saying. But again, since the customer is getting the problem, then he can decide that suddenly I will just make a surprise visit and then see whether the people are wearing that extra the prevention wears, and then that can give a clear idea what is happening. So surprise audits normally done by the customers. Then process audits. So the process audits focusing on a particular process. For example, customer is always facing a problem in the outer dimension, right? So then he may decide that I want to do the audit only on the outer dimension grinding process because I'm getting repeated problems, right? Then you are going to focus only on that process. We call it as a process audit, right? So maybe in your organization, 10, 20 different products may be produced, but all the 10 or 20 products which are going through that particular process, we will closely observe how it is being done and then try to understand what is the problem. We call it as a process audit, focusing on a particular process. Sometimes we can also do a product audit. Maybe we are finding that we are getting some repeated customer complaint only for a particular product. Then we can decide that we can take that particular product and then we can do a end-to-end audit right from the raw material up to the final inspection. We will follow through the same product and then see which process the what type of problems are coming. Then we call it as a product audit, right? Audit focusing on a particular process, there is a process audit. The audit is focusing on a particular product, we call it as a product audit. Okay, so these are all some general terms and terminology. Now we will learn about the auditing procedure. So what is the step-by-step process for doing an audit? So there are 4 main steps involved in auditing. First one, you'll have to plan for the audit. So as I told you, first we start with the annual plan, then monthly plan. And then once the monthly plan is fixed, and then auditors and auditees know that this is what is going to happen, then again, the auditor has to make a plan. He has to prepare. He should not just straight away go to the department and then start auditing. Even before going to the department for auditing, he has to make some preparation. He has to prepare a checklist. So we are going to learn about what are the different planning he has to do before conducting the audit. So once the planning is completed, then we will have to conduct the audit. Then after the audit is completed, then based on the audit findings, you will have to make a report. And then if some non-conformances are observed, then we will have to follow up with the concerned department and close the points after the ensuring that all the corrective actions have been completed. So these are the 4 steps involved in the auditing: planning, conducting, reporting, and follow-up. First, we'll learn about what is the planning. So as I told you, every year the audit plan is prepared by the quality team to ensure conformance with requirement, identify impediments to conformance, and how to overcome it. For example, maybe there are some 10 processes in the organization, and out of each, based upon the customer complaint or based upon some non-achievement of the quality objective. So there are so many different criteria may be there in order to decide which department should be audited how many times in a year. So based upon that criteria, the audit team can prepare the audit annual plan. And then based upon the annual plan, then the monthly plan can be prepared. So these are the different activities we do in planning. First, we'll have to define what is the purpose of doing the audit, why we are doing the audit, what is going to be the scope, which location, which process, which product. So like that, we'll have to define what is the scope. Criteria. So what are the documents we are going to use for the audit? That criteria you need to define, audit criteria. Then what are the guidelines we follow? We'll have to define that. Then we'll have to research. So again, we'll have to analyze the past data. So when I'm planning to prepare the annual plan, then I'll have to see like based upon my, again, I'll have to see like where I was not able to achieve my targets, where there were a lot of customer complaints were there. So based upon which, if you are finding that a particular process or a department, many problems are there, that department or that process can be audited more frequently. And if in a particular process, not many problems are there, then they can be audited maybe once in a 2 months or 3 months. So you'll have to, before finalizing the annual plan, you will have to go through the data, past data, and then based on which you can determine you can finalize the audit plan. Then you'll have to prepare the plan. So once you have made the audit plan, then you finalize the list of auditors, prepare the annual and monthly audit plan. Then you'll have to communicate. So once the monthly plan is finalized, then you'll have to send a communication to the entire the management and the auditors and auditees. So define, research, prepare plan, and communicate. So these are the different activities in planning the audit. Then conducting the audit. Okay. So pre-audit assessment. So that means, as I told you, once I know that as an auditor, I know that I'm going to audit this particular department, then maybe at 9 a.m. On a Wednesday, then you should not go and straight away to the department at 9 a.m. and then again start reading the procedure then and there. So in that case, you are not actually made any plan, right? So you need to at least 3-4 days before, you should get the relevant document, go through their process completely, and then you should just note down what are the points you want to really look for, right? And then you already have your ISO 9001 requirement documentation. They already have. You also have the department's procedure, and then wherever you feel that there is a gap in the documentation meeting the requirement of the ISO standards, you can just make a point. And then wherever which part of the document you want to see whether they are implemented properly, those also you can note down, right? So you'll have to make a checklist. What are the gaps in the documentation you want to observe, and what are the gaps in the implementation you are going to look for. So you'll have to make a pre-assessment, and then you'll have to make a checklist plan. With the checklist, you go, and then first you will have to meet the HOD. So first, when you enter the department, maybe sometimes it can be, many times, mostly it will be a formal meeting along with the head of department, along with the auditees, right? So you just have a formal meeting, explain them again what is going to be the scope of your audit and what is your expectation from them. So you do the opening meeting. We call this a opening meeting. Then you do the audit. So at the time of audit, you just interview the people, ask them questions, go through the documents, go through the records, and then gather the information, and then gather the objective evidence for the conformance or non-conformance, right? And then you just, based upon your observation, you can just complete the audit. And then finally, you will have to call for a closing meeting of all the people who have done the audit, and then you'll have to summarize. So it is always a practice that any report, whatever you are going to give, it should not come as a surprise to your auditees. So sometimes what you may do, maybe your audit time was from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. and till the 11 a.m. you are doing the audit. Then you may say that, okay, I will just go and send the report. The next day, you just send a list of 10 non-conformances and then send it to the department with a copy to the managing director and all the senior management. That is not right, right? Whatever the report or whatever you are finding, you need to discuss with the team of the auditees who have taken part in the audit. And then you will have to tell them that this is the findings you are going to give, get their concurrence, and then only the audit should be released. So this happens during the closing meeting. So whenever you do the audit, first you do some pre-planning or pre-work. Then you go for the opening meeting with the departmental head and the audit team. And then you do the audit, and then finally you summarize during the closing meeting. So these are the major activities we do during the conducting the audit. Then once you have completed the audit, then you have to make a report. So pre-audit, before even going to the department, you will have to review the documentation, read through all the procedures and work instructions to get the first-hand understanding of the process. Then you mentally decide like how you are going to sample, right? So which person or which machine you are going to see. So you just make a plan of how you are going to do the audit, then update the checklist, audit checklist. So based upon that, you just prepare, okay, these are the points I'm going to look for. Then prepare the audit checklist. And then based upon the checklist, you do the audit. So yes, this is actually a sample audit checklist. So what is the audit date? Who is the auditor? Which department you are going to audit? Which procedure you are going to audit? Which working section you are going to add, audit? What are the points to be checked? So this is only for you to have that as a reference document so that at the time of conducting the audit, it will be very easy. Okay. So whenever you are conducting the audit, again, there are two ways you can do. The first one is a vertical audit. So vertical audit is similar to a product audit. Vertical audit is equal to a product audit. So for example, as I told you, you are always finding that one particular product, you are facing some frequent customer complaint. So you may decide that I'm going to do the audit on this particular product. So that particular product, right from the raw material up to the final quality control process, whatever the different processes are there, you do an audit in order to find where the problem is happening. We call this a product audit, right? Also called as a vertical audit. Horizontal audit is focusing on a particular process for different products. Maybe we are finding that every time we are finding that the outer dimension grinding, the dimensions are always more than the specification. So this is we are finding irrespective of different type of products, whatever we are doing. So in that case, we may decide that we are going to do the audit only on the outer dimension grinding process. So in that case, we call it a horizontal audit. You can also call this a process audit. That means one particular process you are going to audit. Sometimes you can also do random audit, focusing on different products and different processes. Sometimes sampling. So that means even before going to the audit, you may just, before going to the audit itself, you may select a particular product or a process and then conduct an audit on those items. We call it a sampling. So as an auditor, you can do any one of these sampling audit method. You can follow any one of these audit methodology. Okay. So that means at the time of planning, you are just reading through the documentation, that is the procedures and work instruction. Then you just strategize like what sample you are going to see, how many samples you are going to see, and then which points you are going to see. You can just make an audit checklist, and then you can decide which type of audit you are going to do, right? So that is what is the planning part of it. Then while conducting the audit, then first conduct the opening meeting. So conduct the meeting with HOD, head of department. That is the opening meeting. So the opening meeting, the main purpose of having the opening meeting is to agree on scope and objectives. So that means the head of department along with the main people whom you are going to interact during the audit, you have to call them to the opening meeting and then explain them that, okay, this is what is the process I'm going to do audit, and this is what is the documentation I will be using for the audit, and this is what is the information I will be requiring from you, right? All those you should be able to clearly explain to the auditors during the opening meeting, so that they will also be very clear about what is going to be the scope of the audit and what are your objectives. Then ensure availability of resources. So where possible, keep the team head informed about the various resources, person and documents required. For example, maybe the department may be spread over maybe a very long, very area may be quite high. So if you want to audit a particular, you want to have a look at a particular record or a particular work instruction or something like that, you just give a prior information to them so that they will keep it ready when you come for the audit, right? So that there will not be any wastage of time. So with respect to the manpower or any of the documentation or anything you want to see, so whatever you are having in your mind, it is better you communicate before you do the audit so that the auditors can be ready with all that information and resources available. Then agree on duration of audit. Arrive at a duration that will be required and mutually agreed upon. So again, if you feel that 2 hours of audit needs to be done, try to talk to the auditors and then arrange for, like, ensure that you are having enough time. But whatever the time you agree, you should try to limit your time within that. Means if you agree for the audit to be done within 2 hours, don't extend your audit for more than beyond 2 hours, right? Try to complete the audit within 1 hour 45 minutes or 1 hour 50 minutes. Then you just have a short 5 or 10 minutes closing meeting so that exactly within 2 hours you will be able to complete the audit, right? So the duration of the audit should not be violated, whatever is agreed with the auditors. Then gather information. So for gathering the information, so these are some of the techniques we are going to learn now, how we are going to conduct the audit. So effective communication, effective probing. So how we are going to ask the questions in a probing manner so that you will be able to get information from the auditee. Effective listening. So asking the questions alone is not the main point in auditing. Again, you will have to effectively listen to what they are saying, then verifying the document, taking the notes. So these are the different activities you do for gathering the information. So you'll have to effectively communicate with the auditors. You'll have to put in appropriate questions so that the probing has to be effective. You'll have to have a effective listening so that once you listen very deeply into what you say, what they say, based upon which you can frame your next questions. So effective listening is very important. Then you should go through verifying the document. For example, you are asking for a particular report format, then you just ask for the file having the report for a particular month, then just flip through all the 30 pages in very fast. Then if you are a very trained and a competent auditor, then you will be able to, like, select some 2 3 reports where some non-conformity is there, right? So that is how, don't go through only one page and then go through the in-depth. So just get the entire document and then flip through it fast, and then you will be able to identify some important point. So verifying the document and then taking the notes. So these are the different activities in conducting the audit. Okay. So again, the first thing is, as you are entering for doing the audit, so first you have to create a comfortable environment. Reassure audit to speak freely. So many times, if you are going with the mentality that I am going to do the audit to find fault with the employees or the different people who are in the department, then again it is not going to work fine. So you have to create a comfortable or a positive environment, right? So that the auditors will be able to speak to you very freely. Say a good handshake, exchanging pleasantries, or even commenting on a noticeable item will help the auditor to be at ease. Maybe you can just do a handshake and then say that while coming to the floor for this audit, this thing, on the way, I found that all the items were stacked very neatly and identifying very clearly. So I find that everything is done in a very good manner, right? So again, just talk with that so that the auditee will be at ease. Then establish a rapport with the auditee, right? So don't expect that auditees should be afraid of you. So in that case, they may not be coming out with a lot of speaking. So in that case, it will not be possible for you to come out with some valid observations. Explain the process to the auditee and tell him or her to feel free to ask questions. Make clear that it is the system and not the person that is being audited. No blame will be attached to the person. So if you are, whenever you are asking the question, if you are giving an impression to the auditee that you are trying to checkmate him and you are trying to trap him in a net or something like that, then he may hold back the information and the audit may not be effective. So we'll have to say, make a indirect communication to the auditee, saying that you are here only to find whether the processes are being followed or not. And if anything is not followed properly, then it is only the system that is need to be corrected, not the person. So that again, indirect hint you have to give to the auditee. Strike a balance between the confrontation and empathy. So you should not get too close with the auditee and then try to understand what are the problems he's facing, so that if he is going to come out with some excuses, then you should not have so much of empathy that you say that, okay, maybe because of this reason, is genuinely is unable to follow the processes. So don't create too much of empathy. At the same time, too much of confrontation also will not help. So you'll have to be unbiased and you'll have to be some sort of a neutral approach should be there. Then effective communication. So first, after setting the tone, first then you have to effectively communicate in the audits. So use tact and perception. So as an auditor, you will deal with the senior managers to operators. So if you're going to do an audit in a department, you will be seeing auditing different layers, right? You will be auditing the senior manager. At the same time, you may be auditing a contract employee who has joined the organization only yesterday, right? So again, you cannot talk to them in the same language, in the same manner. So you'll have to use the tact and perception. Because again, the senior managers may be very, very fluent in their communication and their understanding will be quite fast. They will be very sharp in understanding and answering your questions. Whereas a casual labor who has come yesterday, he may not be able to understand what questions, whatever you're asking. So you'll have to see how you are going to talk to all the level of people and get the required information. So you will find employees who understand and support your role. And at the same time, you will also come across employees who are threatened by the audit process or who may feel shy or who are difficult to deal with. So different variety of people you will be seeing at the time of audit, right? So people may just be afraid of you and then they will go into a cell. They will feel shy. So getting any useful information from them may be difficult. Those type of people you will meet during the audit. Or sometimes you may be finding the people who are very tough, who are very aggressive. So you need to really tackle those different types of people. So for that, your interpersonal skills will enable you to build a cooperative relationship with the auditee and to maximize the effectiveness of the audit. So that is the reason auditor has to be competent. So competent in the sense he should be having proper interpersonal skills so that he should know how to tackle the different levels of people. Then the outcome of the effective communication is that it ensures a broader ownership base, which increases the support for the recommendation. So when you are talking to the people, when you are communicating more, then you are creating a good rapport with the auditee, so that after completing the audit, if you are going to make some recommendations and some suggestions, then the people will be really eager to follow and support your recommendation. But if your communication is not proper, then for implementing your recommendation, again, they may not be wholeheartedly supporting that. Effective feedback after the audit will generate support for the implementation program, which will minimize resistance to the suggested changes. So that is the reason why you should have an effective communication. Okay. So effective probing in audit. So how do you effectively ask questions during the audit? So very important point here is ask open-ended questions, which cannot be answered with yes or no. Open questions are used to get the auditee talking. They provide a lot of information on which to build more specific questions. For example, if you say that, do you do this activity, then they will say either yes or no, right? If they say no, then again, you don't know what else to ask. So instead of yes or no type of questions, so always it is better to start with some questions like it. So can you explain how you are doing this particular activity? Or can you describe what are the different documents you are having? Can you show me this document, or can you? So these are some of the words you can use, right? So this will allow the auditees to talk more, and based on whatever the information you get from the talking, you can further build upon more questions, and in that way you'll be able to get more information. So you are auditing a process, not a person, job, performance, or skills. That is very important, right? Always go for open-ended questions which cannot be answered with a yes or no. That is very important. So these are some of the common questions you can ask. Satya, can you describe me the procedure for cast off that is in place, right? So can you describe? Can you, to help me understand the template creation, can you show me what you do and I will follow it in the manual? So you just explain how you are doing the process so that I can cross check with the document and then see whether it is being followed correctly. So what does this process mean to you? Can you explain to me that? Could you help me understand the process of CD backup, right? So you can see that we are just encouraging them to talk more so that the audit can be more effective. So you should be capable of answering, putting up some questions to lead to arrive at the issue. For example, if you find that an auditee has not completed the checklist, so you first try to understand the reason for non-compliance. So don't jump to, for example, whenever you are finding that you are just doing the audit, you are finding that the auditee has not really filled up a particular template, then immediately do not jump and then come to a conclusion and then make a note in the your report saying that this activity is not being done, right? And then instead of that, what you can do, try to again ask more question to him, like I am finding that you are not this particular form is not being filled. So is there any specific reason for not filling the checklist, right? So then he may say that no, I don't find this checklist to be useful, right? Then you can ask him that why do you feel that this particular checklist is not useful, right? What is wrong with the checklist? So what do you think that can be done to improve the checklist to suit the process, right? So then he will say that we should do that, right? So instead of trying to pinpoint and whenever you find that something is not being followed, instead of jumping upon and then making a some sort of a uh, uh, feeling that making the auditee feel that he has done a crime. So don't give that impression to the auditee. So try to see like if something is not done, try to understand what is the reason behind that, so that this will help you to come out with more suggestions, more useful suggestions, which they will be easy for him to again implement it, right? So whenever he is feeling that something is not done properly, there is some genuine reason for that, and then you are able to come out with a common understanding of how the problem can be solved. Then that can be given as a recommendation during your audit, so that the audits can be effective. So avoid why questions. It makes the auditors react in a defensive way. So don't try to be offend the auditors by aggressively asking why you are not done this, why you have done this, why you have not done that. So don't put any aggressive why questions. So that will again uh, put the auditor in a defensive way. So how will you deal with these auditors? Again, as I told you, there are so many different type of people you will be encountering when you do the audit, right? So non-communicative. So maybe some people are very shy. So they are not at all communicating to you. So again, to those people, again, don't ask open-ended questions, right? Close-ended questions, like which can be answered only yes or no. Instead of putting a close-ended questions, which can be answered in a yes or no format, try to again put questions like, can you just give examples, or can you explain, or can you show me that, so that they will again try to talk more. This is the way you can tackle the people who are not communicating properly. Then you may encounter some people who are talking too much. So when they are trying to, because many times, if you really practically see in an audit, I also encountered this much. So the head of department will just appoint a smart person. He will know that, okay, he will know what are the weaknesses in his department. So he will try to avoid those areas or those points, and then he will try to take it in his own direction where it is he is strong, right? So he will try to again talk more to you, and then try to pull you to that area where they are strong. So in that case, again, your audit will not be effective. So when a person, when an auditee is trying to talk too much and then trying to divert your attention, so don't get tempted by that. Try to again cut short that particular competition and then say that thank you for that information. Let us go back to the procedure of again, let's bring him to exactly what you wanted to say, right? So don't get too much influence by the person who is talking too much, right? So in that way, you may be you have already made some preliminary work. You have made your checklist, and then you have identified clearly those points, whatever you wanted to check. And then if anybody is trying to divert you from that aspect, then again try to cut short that particular conversation and then bring back into your own area. So that will may help you to make your audit very effective. And then there may be some people who may not be cooperating. So again, being rough with those people or complaining to the head of department again will not be helpful. So you need to again see how you are going to tackle those people who are not cooperating. So we have learned about what is the effective communication, how you can effectively communicate, and then how you can probe effectively, right? Then active listening in audit. So again, active listening is very important. So if you are going to give an impression that you do most of the talking, and then whenever the auditee is coming to say something, then sometimes I have seen some auditors will interfere, will just cut short the particular competition and then say that, okay, I know that this is what you are coming to say. And then they will make their own judgment. So again, that is not the right approach. So whatever the auditors are trying to say, so you should be able to listen to them with the active listening. So active listening means showing that you are listening, right? For example, you can just, whenever they are explaining, you can make an eye contact with them, or you can just nod your head, or you can just slightly, you can just give a very short interrupt them and then say that, okay, I understand that this is what you wanted to communicate, whether this is okay or not okay, right? So that will give an indication that you are very effectively you are listening, right? That impression will be given to the auditee. So focus on what is being said. Do not get distracted by the greeting or chatting with others. Connect with and understand the person better. So listen to understand. Keep eyes contact. So show open body language. Use commenting words. Ask questions. Right. So some of the barriers to effective listening is, okay, I know that you are going to hear, right? Suppose if he's wanting to say something, then you just cut short his words and then say that I know what you are trying to say. Again, that is not the way of effective listening. Sometimes you may say that, okay, we are seeking only the confirmation, not the information. So that means you are pre-assuming that you are this is what he is coming to say. So you may be pre-assuming something. Again, that is also not right. So what is being said is getting in the way of what needs to be said. Listeners are those listening with the intent to reply and those listening with the intent to understand. Okay. What are the advantages of active listening? Gather the information objectively, clarify your understanding of what is being discussed. So you, whatever the information is giving, try to again find out some documentary evidences for that, so that the information can be very objective. Clarify your understanding of what is being discussed. So when you are discussing, maybe he is saying something, and then again you just put it in your own words and try to confirm whether this is what you wanted to say. So it tells the auditees that you are interested in their work, and therefore they listen to your suggestions and recommendations. So that means whenever you are doing the audit, so don't go with the intention of don't give a feeling, don't make the auditee feel that you have come there to find their fault, and then you are going to put them in a as a criminal, and then you are going to present them to the senior management. So if they are going to feel that way, then they are not going to cooperate. They are not going to give more information. So try to make them more ease, and then try to communicate that you have come there to help them to improve their processes, right? So until and unless they know what mistake they are doing or where they are going wrong, then they may not be able to improve. And by doing the audit effectively, then you can just send a message that you have come there to help, not to punish them or not to put them in an embarrassing situation. So then verifying the documents. So check the revised SOP against the process. Always ask for the latest process, and then check whether the latest check the whatever is happening in the process against the latest revised SOP, standard operating procedure. Do not accept a promise that a procedure is being done. Ask for evidence. So sometimes the auditors may try to dodge you and then try to say that, okay, this document is being made, so I will show it to you. This document is available maybe in some other building, so maybe I can show you tomorrow. So don't allow that, right? If because again maybe in the night they can just cook up some document and then they can show it to you. So whenever they are asking for some excuse, then try to say that I just wanted to know whether this is available or not available. You tell me whether it is available or not available. If it is available, then you just bring and show it to me. If it is not available, then I will just make a note that it is not available. So be very clear with them. Ask for the evidence. Check the relevant mails. So if the process procedure or the work instruction is referring to some emails from the customer or supplier or something like that, so try to check all the relevant mails. Check the supporting documents like the checklist or Excel sheets, etc. So sometimes again you may be auditing a production department, and then in the production department one machine may be there, and then in the machine some maintenance people would have made a checklist, and then that checklist will be there in the displayed in the machine, and then you can just audit that particular whether all those activities have been done for the maintenance. So again, you can go to the maintenance team and then you can just do the audit, right? So again, whenever you are doing the audit, you may lead to some other department also. You can just go there. Take notes. Don't rely on your memory. So that is very important. So many times what you try to do, like you always feel that, okay, now since you are going to do the audit for a very short period of time, maybe 1 or 2 hours, then you may think that everything I will remember, and then you will just you will try to be relying on your memory, but that is not the right approach. Try to make the checklist before you go, and then take notes on the inconsistencies or evidences. So this was the point I wanted to check. So against that point, what is your observation, whether it was confirming or whether it was not confirming? If it is not confirming, then what is the evidence to show that it is not available, right? So you'll have to show that evidence. So as and when you are doing the audit, then you'll have to make the notes, and then in the notes itself, the evidences for the conformance or non-conformance that should be written, so that at the time of closing the audit, whenever you are summarizing your observation, then it will be easy. So don't do the audit and then during the last 10 to 15 minutes, you try to again go through your mind. If you are trying to summarize all the points, you may miss some important points. So it is always better to make the notes then and there. So taking the notes will help you to write the summary accurately and quickly within the stipulated time frame. So you should complete the audit within the duration as agreed with the HOD. Then summarize audit the audit observations with the objective evidence, and then you'll have to report the findings, right? So once you complete the audit, then by the time you have completed the checklist with your observation, and for the conformance or not conformance, again you would have collected some objective evidence, right? So everything there will be in the checklist. So with that, you complete the audit within the stipulated time period, and then ask for a closing meeting with the HOD and again the auditee. Then you can just summarize saying that these were the different points you have seen, and then this is what the evidence you are having, right? So by going through those observations and the evidences, again the auditors has to accept that report, whatever you are going to say, is actually the true representation of what is happening in the floor. And if they have something else to offer, again you can discuss with them, and then if you feel that it is necessary or if it is appropriate to modify any of your observation, then you can modify. But again, it is always important to ensure that the auditees are aware the exact points or the report findings, whatever you are going to give. So don't give any um, observations or any report without the knowledge of the auditees. So that is not the right approach. So now you have planned for the audit, then you have conducted the audit, you have closed the meeting. Then the third main activity is reporting the findings. So the organization will want to know whether your audit has disclosed any problem, and if so, how they are resolved. So the main reason or the main advantage or benefit what the management or the organization is looking for is, by doing the audit, we are able to uncover some of the underlying problems in the particular department, and are you able to find some solution for that, right? How they can be resolved. So that's what they are looking for. And the team will want to know the recommendations for resolving an issue and prevention. So the team will always try to again see whether your audit has highlighted some of the maybe the lack of resources or lack of knowledge or something like that, which can be presented to the management so that the problem can be solved, right? So the communicate the recommendations in a positive way. So you need to, or the expectation of the management is again to find a resolution to the problem. And again, the employees are also looking for some good, the points to be presented to the senior management the right way so that they can get the permanent solution for the problem. So you will have to again communicate the recommendations in a very positive way. Okay. So the categorization of audit finding is very important. So after completing the audit, you have made your notes, you have made your finding. And once you have made your finding, then the findings has to be categorized into different categories. So again, the first one is the major non-conformance. So major non-conformance you will give for a audit finding where you have evidence of violation of a procedure. For example, assume that you are doing the inward inspection of the raw material, and the procedure says that the material you are receiving has to be inspected for some 10 chemical parameters, right? And for one particular batch of raw material, again, the inspection report you are having. So you are finding that the inward inspection for those 10 chemicals has not been done. So that means there is a evidence for a violation of a procedure. Some inward inspection has not been done properly. So that will be major non-conformance, right? So that means because this activity is not done, it may have the impact on the quality of the entire product. So there is evidence of a violation of a procedure. That's a major non-conformance. The other major non-conformance can come because of the lack of documentation of vital activities. For example, if the quality policy or the quality objectives or the final inspection specifications from the customer. So if these documents are not available, then this can lead to a major non-conformance or a major customer complaint. So that can be considered as a major non-conformance. So you can, as a thumb rule, you can say that if any of the non-availability of the documents or not implementing any of the document, if it is going to have a major impact on the client with respect to their quality, delivery, cost, or communication, so we can consider that as a major non-conformance, right? So if any non-availability of documents or non-conformance to a particular procedure is leading to a major customer complaint in terms of not meeting the quality, delivery, cost, or communication, that can be considered as a major non-conformance. The second category is minor non-compliance, evidence of a minor deviation of a procedure. So, for example, if in a process the document is written that the temperature should be maintained between 100 plus minus 2 degrees centigrade, and the record whatever you are seeing is saying that on a particular at a point of time the temperature was around 105 degrees centigrade. So that means there is a minor deviation from the procedure. So that can be given as a minor non-conformance. Or whenever the documentation is incomplete, maybe you are how we are doing a particular process, maybe some steps are there, but again it is not very clear or it is incomplete. So again that is not conforming, but again it is not going to have a major impact on the customer requirement. Then we can call this as a minor non-compliance, right? So major and minor non-compliance means not meeting the requirement, and if not meeting the requirement is going to have major impact on the customer, we can call that as a major non-conformance. And if it is going to have only minor or no impact on the customer requirement, then we can call that as a minor non-compliance. Then the third one is observation. There is no evidence of deviation from the procedure, but a possibility of problems in future. So that means you are observing that you are finding that whenever you are walking through, you are finding that two different materials are mixed up, right? In a particular tray, you are finding that two different products are mixed. So actually, that has not actually created a problem so far, but in future stage, then that may create a problem. So any observation which may be a potential problem during a later stage, we call it as the observation, so that the concerned team can take some proactive action, right? So that means currently it is not a non-conformant, but in future there is a potential that this problem may become a non-conformant. Those type of findings we call that as a observation. Then fourth one is the opportunities for improvement. Any point that the auditor feels will help in the improvement of the process based on his or her finding. So again, whenever you are finding the opportunities for improvement, try to again talk to the auditees and then try to record it in their own words, right? So because you know that you are coming from a different department and you are auditing their process, so you are not an expert in their process, but whenever you are raising some probing questions to them, you are making some sharp observation, and then that is kindling their thoughts, and then they are able to identify some problem, and then they are able to come out with some solution. Then with their concurrent, you just make that as a observation point as an opportunity for improvement. So since this has been recorded in the same words or the same intention as for in their own words, then at the time of implementation, it will be very helpful for them. So they will be again supporting you to implement your recommendations, right? So any point you feel that is going to help to improve their processes can be given as opportunities for improvement. The last one is the noteworthy effect. Any good practices followed in the department, which can be copied to the other department. So again, if maybe they are arranging the material very nicely, or they are making some reports in a nice manner, or they are storing the storage of files and documents is very good. If any good points are there, so that also can be captured as a noteworthy effort. So the audit findings, whatever you are going to give, can be broadly classified into 5 categories: major non-conformance, the non-conformance which may lead to a major customer complaint, then minor non-conformance which may have little influence impact on the customer requirement, observation which is not a problem now but may become a problem in future date, opportunities for improvement, suggestions for improvement, noteworthy effect, the good effort that can be taken through the other departments also. So these are the 5 categories for the audit findings. So let us take a quick quiz about to identify whether what is the type of categorization you can do. So SOP available and followed. So that means the documentation is available, implementation is also there. That is a conformance. SOP available but not followed. So that means a procedure is available, but you are not seeing any evidence of that procedure being followed. Then that is a major non-conformance. SOP available but followed with modification is available, but there is a little deviation is there. So again, that is a non-conformance, but it is a minor because it is not going to have major impact on the customer. If it is not going to have major impact on the customer, you can classify it as a minor non-conformance. Procedure available, SOP not available, right? It is not in a proper approval format. Maybe it is a minor non-conformance. Requirement available and procedure unavailable. So there is a requirement is there, but again, there is a procedure is not available. So it is a opportunity for improvement. Distinct requirement unavailable, but it is an indirect requirement. That is an observation. So that means it is not a problem as of now, but there can be a there can be a problem in a future. That is an observation. Checklist fill without actually checking against the listed items. So that means people have blindly put in some recorded something. So that means again that is non-conformance, right? So how to audit? Check the revised SOP against the process. Always ask for the latest version of the procedure, and then you do the audit against the latest updated procedure. Do not accept a promise that the procedure is being done as per the evidence. Talk to the line manager before jotting down the problem in the report. Do not accept reason not to record what you saw. Because sometimes people may say that, okay, now you are finding that you are asking for a document to be shown. Then they may say that it is there in some other room or some other building. So they will just show it to you tomorrow. But again, don't accept for that. And then when you are trying to write that this is not available, then they may say that no, don't regard it. If they want to do something which you are not convinced about, that don't do that, right? So always you have to, whatever your job is to, main purpose of your doing the audit is to give the unbiased findings to the management. So if something is not happening and it has to be recorded, it has to be recorded, right? So don't accept any reason not to record what you saw. If several visits are needed to audit the SOP, then make the visits. Write non-conformances as a direct negative of the standard. So that means, for example, the requirement is for a quality policy should be available. And then you are observing, we are finding that the quality policy is not available. Then you can just write your audit statement saying that the non-conformance is that the quality policy is not available. Requirement is quality policy should be available. Non-conformance is quality policy is not available, right? Is the direct negative of the standard requirement. Audit standard items on every audit, but do not just stop with that. Turn in the written audit report with the SOP revision that was used and any non-conformance to the QA. Okay. Principles of auditing. So again, this is very important. So whenever you are doing the audit, again, the audit should be done in a professional manner. So you should conduct yourself in an ethical manner, right? So you should have a trust, integrity, confidentiality, and discretions are essential for audit. So sometimes what may happen is, for example, you may have maybe one of the HOD is not a good friend of yours. Maybe in a particular before some days, then he was talking very light of you. He just um, means discouraged. Maybe he was talking ill about you to somebody else. So again, as a point of return, now you may go. You may be tempted to go into the cafeteria and then tell your friend that you visited that particular department, and then you are able to find a lot of non-conformance, and then you can just mark a team. But again, that is not ethical conduct. So whatever the observations you are finding in a particular department, then you should just keep it confidential, right? So don't disclose it to other people. So you should have the lot of trust, integrity, and confidentiality. Fair presentation. So whatever you are seeing, you should be able to report truthfully and accurately. So don't try to involve your own ideas, right? So whatever you have found, so try to give your report very accurately and truthfully. Due professional care, the application of diligence and judgment in auditing. Independence, the basis of the impartiality of the audit and objectivity of audit conclusion. Evidence-based approach. So whatever the observations or whatever the report you are going to give, it should be based on the evidences whatever you have collected during the process, auditing processes. So coming to the attributes of an auditor. So what should be the, in order to be a competent auditor, then what characteristics should have? The first one is knowledgeable. So your understanding of quality produce should be current and accurate. So whenever you are reading a procedure or this thing, so again, the structure of the document, what content it should have, what content it should not have, everything you should have, you should be knowledgeable about the quality procedure. General qualities. So you should be communicative, competent to examine, should be able to ask the probing questions, and you should be able to evaluate the situations, and you should be able to report and able to work with the team. So you should be able to carry the team along with you during the audit. Technical qualities. So knowledge of methods, able to judge the competence of the process, observation of the work performance of personnel, etc. Responsibilities. Communicate and explain, plan, perform and report the results, keep confidentiality, ensure cooperation within the team. So once you have made the report, then the last thing is to how you are going to report it. So there are two types of reports you have to make. The first one is the audit report. Second one is the audit summary report. So this audit report, again, is a sort of a template, can be used as an audit report. So who is the auditor, name of the auditor, audit number, audit date, which audited department. So serial number, what category, any of those 5 categories, major, minor non-conformance, observation, opportunity for improvement, or noteworthy effect. So what is the category? So what is the description of audit finding? So always try to be very crisp about what you really found, what you really observed. Then what is the reference document? Okay, I will be completing with another maybe 5 minutes. I think only 5, 6 slides are there. Maybe another 5 minutes I will be able to complete it. So what is the reference document and what is the time for corrective action? So again, you just leave it blank. You will have to write what is the category of the observation, what is your finding, and which document you are referring to. Then audit summary report. So once the different auditors are submitting their individual reports, then the quality team will summarize all the audit reports. So what is the audit number, who is the auditor, which audited department, what was the audit date, what was the category of observation, what is the description, what is the time for corrective action. So what are the root cause, corrective action, preventive action. And then after the corrective and preventive action has been completed, then you will have to again go and verify that. So when it was verified, so finally, what is the status of finding? So you will have to close it, right? So that is the audit summary report. So do's and don'ts. Perform the assigned task in an independent and self-directed fashion. Conduct yourself in a professional manner all the time. Assume a friendly and cooperative dominant with the auditor's area staff. Raise the disagreement to the quality head. So if you and auditee are unable to come to a conclusion about a particular point, whether there should be a non-conformance or not, then don't argue too much about with auditee. Then again, wherever you are unable to resolve with both of you, then you can take it to the quality head. So he will resolve it for you. So complete the assigned task in a timely, thorough, and accurate and well-documented manner. Submit all the completed work papers for final review and approval to quality head. So once you make the final report, and then you can discuss with the quality head before finalizing the audit reports. Don'ts. So don't go with the approach of finding the fault. Audit is to help the team improve their process and curve and rectify inconsistencies. So don't go with the fault finding mission, and don't give solutions. So whenever you're doing the audit, it should, whenever the dialogue whatever you are having with the audit team, again, it should lead to a logical conclusion for a solution for the problem. But since you are not the experts in the particular process, don't try to give a solution to them. Again, that may, they may feel it odd. Don't blame anyone. Even though most problems are caused within the facility, the audit process should focus on diagnosis and resolution rather than finding fault. Don't give vague suggestion that may override what is done in a better way. Don't be chummy with the auditing. So again, no need for you to be very much extra friendly with the auditing. So you're not there to begin a long-term friendship. This may lead to getting distracted from your duties. So in a nutshell, convince the team importance of compliance to SOP and how we can improve the process. Okay. So you can see that the different steps of the audit and then what should be the different characters it should have as auditing, how to do the effective auditing that you have learned. Okay. Any questions or any suggestions, any doubts or something like that?
No doubts. Everything was appreciable. Thanks a lot for this lot much of bundle of information. But one thing for these documents like audit summary report and the audit the pre-audit assessment, all those things. Do we have any set of reports, or it is self-made things?
It is self-made things only.
Okay.
Yeah. So because I have just given some what do you call this is a sort of template I have given. So depending upon your requirement, you can just modify that. So there is no hard and fast rule that it's be something like that, right? You can just customize it for your requirement.
I heard this lead auditor, the procedure of getting as a lead auditor. Is there any qualifying method like where we get it to?
No, normally this lead auditor course is actually a 5 days course, right? And then
Yes.
now whatever I have, this is, since it is an internal auditor, I have whatever the different classes are there, class 4 to class 10. I have just
Mm-hmm.
given only at a very high level. But in the
Mm-hmm.
lead auditor course, then they will just go through individual each and every requirement. They will go through in a finer detail, right? So
Mm.
since it is a 5 day course, they will go it very elaborately, and then they will also give you some case studies. So they will just give you sort of a own scenario, some sort of a
Mm.
scenario, and then based
Okay.
upon that scenario, then you will have to make your audit report, right? So you can say that okay, based upon the report, you can say that okay, this is a non-conformance, major non-conformance, this is a minor non-conformance, and you'll have to justify why it's a major non-conformance, why it's a minor non-conformance like that. So in
Uh,
that way, it will be elaborate, yeah.
so that means there must be some body who is certifying as a lead auditor or something like
Yeah, there we call it a IRCA. I don't know the exact definition. It's a IRCA certified training.
that. Right. Okay. Thanks a lot. Thanks for that.
Yeah. So whenever you are looking for some leadership course, and then check whether that course is certified by IRCA. Then that is genuine.
Right.
Normally, it is
Right.
a 5 day course.
Right, sir. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Thanks,
If
sir.
no questions are there, maybe then we can just close this session now and hope you had a wonderful learning session. Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.